Hey, 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 guys. Hello, welcome, welcome. Yes, I know, you're all saying it. It's the middle of the night. Some of you guys might not know, actually. Yesterday, we did a stream in the dead middle of the night. So, for anybody watching on WP2 at the moment, it is currently 20 to 5 in the morning. This is now the... Yesterday, I did a stream. It won't appear on WP2 or anywhere. I actually ended up deleting a little bit later because we ended up talking about Brexit, and after the stream was over, I was like, I really don't want to. So I got rid of that. So this will be the main one you guys see. But yes, this is the second of the week that we're actually in the complete dead of night. This is the latest I have ever done a stream. Right here, right now. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's 20 to 5. But hey, that means we'll basically have no viewership, and you guys can talk about whatever you like. You get some real one-on-one action. I guess that's something nice, right? So yeah, but basically I logged in. The reason I decided I was going to stream anyway, even though it is the middle of the night, is I'm just going to be running around in Heart of Thorns anyway for the next hour and a bit as it is anyway. So as you guys know, the plan has been for a while to be collecting the elite specialization weapons. I actually did log into a mail from Fingerlights today, who's apparently set some stuff up for the arena, but considering this is such a weird time and we're really not going to get many people knowing it's even going on, it seems a bit unfair for me to actually host one of the tournaments today, so we'll probably do that next time. But yeah, apparently he set up some kind of cool arena. For today though, we'll check out the elite specialization stuff. So right now I'm going for Fixer Upper, which I'm doing okay on progress-wise, but of course I need map completion on an engineer. And I figured I'd do Tangled Depths because also when you get map completion, you get those legendary items. And I've already got one for VB, I've already got one for AB, and I've already got one for Dragon Stand. So it just doesn't really make any sense. Should I have gone up there? Is that a bad idea? It doesn't make any sense to do it elsewhere. And I just saw on LFG, this guy, apparently, this commander, is hosting a full map completion clear of the map. Now, they're miles above me right now, which is kind of annoying, and I'm trying to get to them. And that'll be quite nice. I have no idea how far into the map they've done this, or how far they've got, but I guess we'll just play along and see. So yeah, and to answer the question, why are we in the middle of the night right now? Well, my sleep is probably more messed up right now than it has been in about a year, in that I woke up at about 11 o'clock at night today. I think that was about the time that I woke up. So my day really hasn't started very much. I've not, you know, it's sort of only just beginning here. I woke up, I did some basic stuff, put some washing on, and boom, here we go. Oh, I'm in Rat and Novus lane, that's right, and I need to be in New Hawk lane. Let's see. Well, I'll get this waypoint here. Hopefully I can get to them. The main thing I'm worried about is that they're going to finish the whole thing before I even get a chance to run around. And apparently they're just going to do a full map completion. I have no idea how long they've been doing it for. Okay, so they are all... They're all up, but they're at TQ New Hawk. Alright, so we need to go up New Hawk lane, not Novus lane, and then take the Wallow up there. That shouldn't be too bad. WP stream dead game. Yeah, well, maybe dead in the middle of the night. I don't know. I mean, we're playing... Well, hold on. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's even getting around midnight for people in the States, and usually people are sort of responsible and probably wouldn't be playing about this late. So, yeah. Hey, who knows? I've mostly spent a lot of my day reading about Brexit. I'll tell you what. That referendum, if anything, has got me so into politics. I can't even begin to say. It's so interesting to me. I slept through, we have a show in this country where people, you get a panel of politicians that get questioned about various things with kind of the idea that the audience is your general makeup of the population. They get to ask things on controversial or hot button topics or important things. And obviously because of this referendum where we left the EU, there was a special edition of it. It's called Question Time. That aired at 7 o'clock. I slept through it today. So I woke up and while I was doing some housework and stuff, I was just watching that. It was so interesting. I'm not someone who's typically before now watched too much of Question Time. I mean, like I watched it when Nick Griffin went on it years ago, and everybody got to shout down the BNP and stuff, but not too much. All right, let's see. It would be this Wallow here. Oh, have they moved? Where are they now? They're all the way over there. Oh, they're doing that hero challenge. I know exactly what hero challenge that is. That's the one with the Zintal, right? Just outside TQ New Hook. Well, no, that's to the Chuck Stronghold. That can't be right. Have I missed it? Hold on. What if we go into like the tunnel that's in the middle here, and then try and take that Wallow? There is a Wallow from TQ New Hawk here, right? I'm sure there is. I feel the sleeping pattern pain, WP. I'm in the UK myself, and I'm about to eat dinner. You're about to eat dinner. Well, that's a little bit better than me, who's essentially just eating breakfast. Yeah, that's right. I have to one-up you there, bro. But, yeah, that's pretty bad, too. I bet half the people who voted out can't tell the difference between Europe and the EU. Oh, I don't know whether that's fair to say. I know there was that thing about a lot of people were Googling it. What is the EU? But I'm pretty sure that would have been international communities, not people here. I mean, there could have been some, and there's no shame in that either. I see a lot of people like shaming either people who are on the Leave side or people on the Remain side, shaming each other for trying to, you know, learn a little bit more, or openly admitting where they're ignorant on things and where they were looking things up. And I think that's a real shame, because it's those people's more than anyone that you want to be the makeup of your society, making the decisions, because they're the people who are actually trying to further their education on these topics before formulating an opinion. Most other people won't do that. Most people I come across, not online, but in real life, most people I come across, they have their opinion and that's it, right? Like, they don't really care to change it in the face of anything. Alright. So the wallow isn't here either. What the hell am I supposed to do about all this then? God. What you've got a brilliant experience of here, guys, is Tangled Depths in its fullest as a complicated, difficult map to traverse. Like, you think you see something on the minimap that says, oh, hey, go here and you'll get this. No, you're wrong. It's not going to work out how you wanted it to. Ever. Which is great. Hey, Classic Mozilla, welcome to the stream. Welcome, welcome. So Sismo said 51.8 versus 48.2 is too close to call. I agree. And in fact, I've been reading a bit about, you know, I never realised this. The form of democracy we basically practice when we have a referendum like that is Athenian democracy, I believe. And that sort of died out anyway a long time ago. And everyone's like, look, it's, you know, this referendum, you can't just say, oh. There's a lot of people who are asking for a you know, for people to bypass the results of the referendum, or to ignore it, or to have another one, and turn it into a never-endum, and stuff like that. Who immediately get shouted down. And for the most part, I agree, right? Like, it's been called. We need to move on with it now. But there are a lot of people who immediately shout down, no, this is democracy. I'm sorry you're so arrogant as to try and bypass it, blah, blah, blah. But I think it is a little bit more nuanced than that. You missed WP videos. Yeah, I actually, for the first time ever? Well, maybe in a long time, 2 days ago, I sat down to make a video for you guys. What the hell is going on? Seriously. I see. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. Hit the wallow. Yes. I sat down to make a video with you guys, for you guys, on some of the more recent patch notes. And I swear to God, this basically never happens to me. But I got about halfway through those patch notes. I think mostly the problem was it was a lot of world versus world based stuff. But so this is what happened. I went on there. I started looking at bits of news. Started seeing dev comments. Started seeing what was said on guild chat. I looked at the patch, you know, the update notes, and started pulling away things that I found important that people might want to hear about. Where the hell is the squad now? They're just all over the place. They're down here in the Decayed Hive. Okay. Isn't that like literally where we were a second ago? Did I already get the waypoint here or not? I think I just did, didn't I? Hold on. So the Decayed Hive, we should be able to enter from here, right? And then go through. Seems right. And so yeah, I was writing the stuff down like I usually do, and about 66% of the way through all the game update notes and stuff, and talking about current events, I just stopped and I thought, this is boring. Just everything about it, I thought, this is boring. I think I'm gonna, if I do this video, I will be bored doing this video. I will feel like I'm boring people watching this video. This stuff is so uninteresting to me. And like I say, I don't play World versus World, and a lot of the patch notes were World versus World based things. So it's like, oh, I can see why this would be a good change for World versus World, but I don't really have any interest in playing at the moment. So, you know, which is a shame, because I had told myself, and I'd even told you guys at one point as well, that when significant changes came to World versus World, I'd try the game type out again. But I just feel so out of the loop with it, and I feel like I'm going to be so strongly criticised for going into World versus World and not knowing what I'm doing. You know, you just go in there and people are like, you're not on the tag, blah, 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 blah. I feel like it's just this big gate. So anyway, this video was going on, and I was like, this is boring. And I just stopped making it. I just stopped right then and there. And I haven't really had any inspiration to do a different... The main thing I kind of want to do, I kind of want to do a video talking about all the things that Heart of Thorns did right, but even that, I'm not that interested in. The truth is, I'm doing videos of, like, 3 other games, plus regular Guild Wars 2 streams at the moment, and all of those are a bit more interesting to me at the moment. So, yeah. How about a raid lore video? Well, I talked about that on yesterday's stream as well. World vs. World is a blobby mess now. See, I never hear good opinions about World vs. World. Never. It just seems like World vs. Worlders hate where they come from. And I'm sure that's not true for everyone, but it just, I don't know. Guild Wars 2 is very stale right now. Yeah, people are saying, oh, you should do the raid videos, you should do the raid videos. They're just not interesting to me. I mentioned this on yesterday's stream, but I feel denied almost of having a real experience in that wing. And I just didn't really have much fun in that wing, and I don't really have a group to do that wing with, and I don't know. I don't feel very good about it all. Yeah, we get to zerg around with these guys now and just chat. So, I don't know. That's not to say I'll never cover the lore. The other thing is as well, as far as I've seen, there's really not too much lore in the wing. Now, that is not me detracting the guys who did the story in the wing. Wing 3 is even more awesome perhaps than the other wings that came before it because of the way the characters bounce their dialogue around on each other. And some of the locations you go to are particularly fascinating. However, the story really didn't progress very far. I mean, it really didn't. It probably progressed far enough that I could, yes, do like a 20-minute video on it. And I should. And you guys will probably see that, but it wasn't as explosive as... Well, I don't know. See, here's the thing. Before Wing 3 came out, I was saying this. I was saying that I hoped we didn't fight a Massart itself. And I was hoping we didn't see Saul D'Alessio return or kill Saul D'Alessio already. I was saying that I was hoping that they're just setting these stories up and that they're not immediately going to, you know, be a one-pump chump that's over in 2 seconds after by the end of the wing, right? Because we've been building them up for so long, and I didn't want it to speed to a conclusion really, really fast. So then I feel a bit like a two-faced bastard or a hypocrite or a person who doesn't know what he really wants when I now sit here today and say to you guys that I feel like not enough happened in Wing 3, but that's how I feel. I feel like, you know, we didn't even go to the Bloodstone. And I wonder, you know, well, I can't show you because I've not been there on my engineer. That's crazy. I've never stepped in any element of the raid on an engineer. That's quite telling, isn't it? Yeah, it's very telling. Alright, that portal's not actually going anywhere. I feel like maybe they've left the Bloodstone in this, like, little section here or whatever it is, so that Living World can touch on it, maybe? I mean, it does look amazing. Yeah, I mean, the wing has some great dialogue in it. It has really cool ways that it bounces between your characters. The mechanics of the encounters, as far as I understand them, I think are really cool. Especially Encounter 1, I think is probably my favorite of them all. Encounter 4 is with Zero. The fight is really cinematic. All right, I'm not trying to make out like that's not. Do you know what's really ironic here? This guy is leading these people through map completion, and he's just got them to Ratanova's waypoint. Okay. I came into this map trying to find their squad, and the only thing I did was make a beeline accidentally for Ratanova's waypoint. How annoying is that? So probably the one waypoint he hasn't given anyone yet is the one I accidentally went to first and wasted my time. It was really cinematic, but I think that from what I've seen of Encounter 1, I really like the way that people split there. I think it's really fun. But again, like I feel sort of denied. I never had a good group of friends to play through it with, and I just feel a bit shit about all of it, really. Do you feel like they should just make another expansion pack instead of Living World Season 3? That's a very odd question to ask, considering we know that they're working on both. But, I mean, so let's dive into the particulars of a question like that. Because it's a weird question, something I never would have considered. Should they cancel Living World Season 3 to make an expansion instead? Well, so then what you're suggesting is to move... There are currently, what was it, 70 devs on the next expansion? You're suggesting that the other 100... Oh, my God. The other 230 developers... By the way, is it that number? Is it the 300 number? Is it 300 employees at ArenaNet, or is it 300 developers at ArenaNet? Because there's a big fucking difference there. There's a huge difference there. Which is it? Does anybody actually know? I know we're in the middle of the night and we don't have many people watching and so on. So the odds that someone out there who's watching actually does have the answer to that would be pretty low. But anyway, let's say it's 300 devs, which is probably, by the way, my gut feeling says no. You're saying move an additional 230 onto the expansion? I don't know. Is that in the aim of making the expansion come out quicker, or making it in the aim of making it have more depth and bigger and better and blah 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 blah? Ice Cold says 300 devs doing fuck all. But yeah, I mean, I don't agree with the idea anyway. Just as Ashford101 says, he says, no way, dude, people would be pissed off. Yeah, I agree. We need content. Again, something said on yesterday's stream was that we, you know, I think the main issue with Guild Wars 2 are not the minutiae of these little issues that people will pick at incessantly because they've got nothing else to talk about. It's the fact that there's no content, forcing people to have nothing else to talk about. I think that's the problem. That's been the problem for 4 years. ArenaNet is listed on LinkedIn as having 200 to 500 employees, so I'm guessing it's 300 employees. If 80 stays max level, I'm happy. Well, yeah, level 80 being max level, though, is... I don't think that anybody debates that anymore. Which is so crazy to look at those old demos and old betas from ages ago when they were clearly flirting with the idea because they had, like, level 90 transmutation stones and stuff. Yeah, level 90 transmutation stones. Explain that potato to me. I'm in need of a good enough excuse on why it has a Hitler's moustache. Alright, well, look, just... Look, Hitler was a bad guy. I'm not denying it, and I'm not buttering it up or anything, alright? But I happen to think he had a good taste in moustaches. So if I can subtly impress upon you that this is a cool thing, am I an idiot? Has the commander wandered off already? What's going on? Have I missed it? What? I just asked where we were going next. I don't really understand. This isn't what I signed up for. I just want to zerg around brainlessly and end up with map completion by the end of it. I don't see anyone with a tag next to me. Let's follow this guy. No, he doesn't seem to know where he wants to go. Oh, he's just getting a speed mushroom. I don't know. What is this? Don't have any acid. Currently, I'm doing good on the map currencies, except leyline, which is crazy because when Heart of Thorns came out, I had shit tons of leyline crystals, and it was the others I suffered with. But now this is the only thing that I need a lot of. It would be nice if ArenaNet did Living Story every month or two. Well, I think if I could extract one statement from ArenaNet right now, if there was one thing I would most love to hear ArenaNet do, one thing, for example, right, they're announcing the topic of next week's guild chat, all right? What is the one thing that I would absolutely do roly-polies backwards down a mountain to experience, all right? It would be a guild chat. It would be to get them to talk about why Living World has taken a long time to come out. In specific, not non-specific, in specific terms. About what happened, what the original ideas were when Heart of Thorns came out, what slid away from them, why it slid away from them, how they intend to stop that happening in the future. I think that would be that is the number one thing if out of all things ArenaNet could possibly say. I would choose hearing that over anything about any future expansion or anything. There are other things I'd be mildly curious about, such as, oh hey, do you ever plan on supporting a second game and stuff like that. But no, that I think would be a really interesting... Can you imagine if they came out and they announced that? Can you imagine what that would do? I have to assume that would do incredible things for their viewership. On that episode of Guild Chat, surely. Obviously, it's unfeasible. I'm just blue sky thinking right now. And it might be a really terrible idea if the answers to all those questions and laying it on the line could be quite damaging to their reputation. So, and obviously, they have no... their benefit for being transparent on that, I don't think is very... clear anyway, so if I was at ArenaNet, I wouldn't be pushing for them to do it, but you know. Alright, this guy's got a tag. He says, those are arrow, wait for me. Heart for catching up party, ready, let's swim. Okay. It's awesome. I'll tell you one thing, total topic change here. One thing that is really awesome to see now, all right, when you see like the AB multi-squads, when you see people doing hero point trains, when you see people like Little Rexy doing this here, you get random people who are using those commander, icon functions and, the tags, the markers, to incredibly great effect. People really use those in an incredible way. And I'm really impressed with it. I think it's one of the best things that Arena has put in the game. It's really, really cool. Alright, so we just got ourselves killed because nobody picked up one of the lights, which is cool, right? Cheers, bro. There's no chance of a res or anything, right? What's he doing? Did he just do that to get everyone killed for a laugh, or did he forget about the mechanic? He must have forgotten about the mechanic, surely, right? Surely he forgot about the mechanic. Let's vote one. What constant content? Blizzard barely released anything since WAD. Well, yeah, I mean that's really interesting as well, right? How WoW can continue, but the different games get different length and worth out of the same content. All right. It depends on the way they're structured and how accessible the content is. Just by virtue of having a game with waypoints bloody everywhere, ArenaNet have got a game where their content has far less mileage than Blizzard does when they put content out. And the more raiding the more acceptance for raiding people have. This guy's got a light, so we got to follow him. Oh no, do I just have to get my own? Pure and simple. I think I have to get my own. All right, let's go. The more content you can get out of, the less stuff. I'm honestly bittersweet about them going into the whole White Mantle topic for Living World Season 3. Well, will they? They might. It's got some current events. Well, they've been very clever about the current event stuff, because what they've done is they've got half of the current event stuff is to do with dragon movement, which you'd probably expect the next thing to go into, Living World to go into. But then the other half is based on the raid stuff and the White Mantle stuff, which is, so it's very curious. I don't think we need this anymore. I don't think you die in the dark anymore out here. Just going to stay with the commander, I guess. I'm so scared of having to wait 2-3 months for less than 5 hours of content. Is that how you measure the content? In terms of hours? See, it's very hard, and I think that ArenaNet have always been in a pretty difficult situation with stuff like that, because let's rewind the clock, guys, and let's look at Living World Season 2, alright? When you look at Living World Season 2, you had a huge... Alright, let me take it from this angle. When you look at Season 2, there was actually quite a lot of content. Every time I go to Drytop today, that still counts as Living World Season 2's content that's still being played, right? Every time I go back through Living World Season 2's story, even, I suppose. Or when I go for some of those achievements, when I want some of the gear that's available from those places, when I do it just because dailies incentivize me to go there. That's Living World Season 2 having legs, right? But most people don't subscribe to that perspective. The more common perspective that people like to subscribe to is this. The length of time it takes me to complete the story journal steps is the entirety of how I value Living World Season 2. Full stop. And so they go in and, yeah, they'll wait, it used to be you'd wait 2 weeks to play about an hour to 2 hours tops, all right? You'd wait 2 weeks for about an hour to 1 to 2 hours worth of content. And that's when people would declare it's over. After the main story is done, that is where it's over. They don't care that Drytop's there. They don't care that, 3 years from now, people might still be in Drytop. That there might still be things getting tweaked there. There might still be reason to get geodes and stuff like that. That doesn't matter to them. It was the story journal. This is how you value how long Living World is. These little things here. And I've always felt that was... I mean, I can see that perspective. Don't get me wrong. I really can. I know why people judge it that way. But I also feel like in a lot of ways that's kind of unfair. Has this always been a skill challenge here? So I think it's kind of hard. I think it would be quite hard to be on the Living World team. What do you do in that position? Do you just accept the fact that that's the way your audience is going to view the content you put out and start focusing more on that specific niche of it? Or do you try and fight against the tide, as classically I believe they have done? They've tried to fight against the tide. And, keep trying to encourage people to do more than just the story journal stuff. try and make them see that more than the story journal has value. WP, why are you streaming so late? I woke up from the notification. It's 4 AM. I'm sorry. Please don't turn off notifications because I did this. I apologize. I'm streaming late because it's late and because my sleep's all messed up. Pretty much my entire productivity is messed up. It seems like the week that I decided I wanted to make a schedule and sort things out kind of broke a lot of things. I've learned something about myself. Well, it would be unfair if the open world had its own storylines and actually was integrated into the greater plot. So that's the thing. A lot of people, myself included, I am in this camp, a lot of people don't view meta events and random fluff in the open world as real plot and real content. And that's really unfair, but it's true. I don't value a single event getting dropped in the game as content as much as if that was packaged in a different form. It's just a sad fact of it. And maybe the psychology that underpins that has something to do with it being something you can complete versus something you can't. You can never really complete an event. Sure, you could participate in the event and either succeed or fail, but that's not really completing it. That's not the same as checking it off on a quest log or something and feeling like you accomplished something permanently on your account and you experienced something new that is now definitively over and done with. Dynamic events just don't give you that experience in any sense. The closest you can get is when they do really enormous, elaborate, crazy, meta event chains, and then it's like, yeah, I've killed the Vine Wrath before. Yeah, I've done Octavine. Yeah, I've killed Shatterer or Tequatl. But when we're talking about just sort of the regular events that they're just having to rely on to make their maps feel like they've got content in them, it's not the same, is it? I mean, and I think it's unfair because the effort that goes into making dynamic events, from their perspective, is quite high. And yet I value it almost on the same level as just random mobs wandering around fields that I kill as I progress, you know. It's just fluff to make the map seem kind of more entertaining as I explore it. That's why if they were to just, drop another event into 8... Can you imagine that? If another Agent Zildy quest got added to Ratanovus. Genuinely, who's going to value that as real content going into the game? You're just not. But that could be quite a workload to do something like that. Why are we at the Printomatic area? I don't need this. Oh, okay. Oh, do we have to do that jumping puzzle here? We once streamed this before and I did awful at it. Maybe they'll port me or something. And it's true as well. So Ashford 101 said, I think the Heart of Thorns story events are a lot better on the story side. And I think you're right as well, yeah. But I think that the community still doesn't appreciate them as much as they should on the story side, or as much as, not as they should, sorry, as much as ArenaNet thought they would. ArenaNet sat back and rested on their laurels of the expansion as a whole when it came to the story team, when it came to what Leah Hoyer and company set up for the core plot of Heart of Thorns. I think they were overly confident in how much content they provided and how much story and how much depth there was to their plot, because they looked at their product as a whole and really appreciated all the meta events specifically in all the maps, and they considered those as definitive parts of the Heart of Thorns story. The struggles between the Quaggan that crash in their airship, and how we get to meet Bagarth once again, and how the Order of Whispers tried to utilize the Chuck to their advantage in their battle against, breaking into Dragonstand and stuff. All that shit, I think that ArenaNet thought, yeah, this is fucking real content, this is story, this is good. But players don't see it that way. When I think of the Heart of Thorns storyline, I don't think, oh yeah, that was awesome, Bagarth reappeared in the plot, that's cool. I mean, he did to a small extent, but more, I'm actually disappointed. I think, fuck man, they put him in one of the events, but then that was a total bait, and he wasn't in the actual story itself. You know, because the player perception of what constitutes a story is completely skew with from what ArenaNet, I think, have thought was story. And again, I think it's because the dynamic events feel like they don't have any real impact on the world, like your personal story feels like it can. And listen to what I just said. It feels like the dynamic events don't provide enough impact on the world. I think that's where the core of it. I think ArenaNet have sort of been convinced for years that dynamic events do provide that experience. They do allow you to affect the world. Just Christ, look back at the manifesto. The now infamously, you know, infamously the thing that people think at ArenaNet lied to us about the most. You know, you look at like what Ree Sosby says on that manifesto about how you really feel like a hero and you really have an impact, blah, 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 blah. I think dynamic events just don't quite go the full distance. Now, ArenaNet heard to the contrary when the game was first releasing, and they heard from everyone about how awesome the dynamic events were and how much it broke the mold of regular MMOs, and their fans were telling them how crazy and awesome it was. And so it's fair that they'd have that perspective, but I think as time has worn on, any established player of Guild Wars 2 doesn't care enough about events for them to be considered core parts of the plot. And so you get problems. All this, by the way, which I think ArenaNet probably does recognize now, all this combined with the fact that people don't simply, by and large, didn't like that constant nagging pressure in maps with large definitive meta events during Heart of Thorns. I think those two facts combined together both point to the next expansion, if ArenaNet are being progressive and they're trying to listen to their audience. I think both of those things point to a future expansion where we have far less of the Chuck, Garen, Vinewrath, Octavine, you know, every single map having a giant, massive, definitive dynamic meta event chain. I think we'll see a lot less of that in the next expansion because people don't value it as much of a story. They'll redouble their efforts there and put it into the actual story journal and the actual chapters. And they'll be more open to having Queensdale, Kessex Hills, you know, classic Ascalon style maps and whatever from launch to pad it out. I mean, just to put definitive terms on this, I've always believed an expansion where you have, like, say, four, you can have an expansion with 4 maps which are defined by huge meta events that swing through them. And as you're exploring those maps, you have that pressure to... everyone kind of eventually gets funneled into these huge, massive, explosive ends, right? I reckon you can have an expansion with 4 of those maps, just like Heart of Thorns had 4 of those maps. However, that's incredibly dependent on there being other maps to pad it out. You know, if you had 8 maps in an expansion, and you had a Kessex Hills type exploration, then you've got Octavine. Then you've got, you know, Fields of Ruin type exploration. Then you've got Dragon's Stand. You know, if you're going on, off, that's very fundamental and rudimentary as an example, right? But that general idea to pad it out, now we're talking. Again, people wouldn't criticize the existence of these if this wasn't all that existed. Goes back into that same argument of the less content you make, the more people will scrutinize what you did make. Alright, he wants us to waypoint away to the Order of Whispers now. And he says it's upscaled by a lot, so it's a bad idea. I'm seeing a lot of commanders doing this now, by the way, as well. They'll deliberately charge a Zerg in to trick the upscaling so that stuff doesn't upscale and can still be destroyed by a Zerg. It's pretty interesting. Alright, I'm going to have to salvage some of this stuff. Because, and I am very much on the side of these maps like this. Maps like this are cool. They really are, especially when you look at them through the lens of replayability. But, you know, I can also understand everyone being a bit sick of it on their first time through, right? The first experience, always feeling that annoying, nagging pressure. Sounds negative when people say DLC. Wait, what are we talking about? After you switch to the Elder Scrolls, will you still post and or stream Guild Wars 2? Yes, I will. Yeah. Don't misunderstand me. I'm going to be full on Guild Wars 2 until the next expansion. If the next expansion doesn't live up, though, you might see me moving away more. Well, because it's a little bit difficult for me now because I don't just look at this game as a fan. When I think about the future, all right, like, and what I would primarily, I mean, look, even if the next expansion tanked terribly, I'm going to cover the run up into the next expansion and the next expansion itself wholeheartedly and fully, as you've always seen me do with this franchise. That is pretty much set in stone as far as I'm concerned. However, if it does completely suck, it is probably best that professionally I redouble my efforts somewhere where there's a bigger audience and more success to be had and more stability for me as a human being for the future of my life, right? And so in that case, you might then, if the next expansion flops majorly, you would see me on the video front facing side, you'd probably see it slow down. However, even given that, as a fan of the franchise, I would probably still play it. I would just play it less. And I wouldn't be so interested in extracting as much as I can out of it. But yeah, you know, there's no way I would just up and leave. And especially not within the next couple of months. No way. Nocta says, holy hell, WP, you need to do an all-nighter and fix your schedule. Yeah, I know, it's tough. I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm wide awake right now. The sun will be up in about half an hour as well. WP play Overwatch. Yeah, but I don't care about Overwatch. I'm not going to just bandwagon to something because it's big and I have no real love for it. That's too deceitful for me. I wouldn't like doing that. In my opinion, maps should have the world bosses on them, at least 80% of them, and 5-ish events that chain into it, just not the entire bloody map. Yeah, I do think that having some kind of world... There's such a range of ways that they can do world bosses, though. One of the things that always surprises me is the core Tyrael world bosses see high amounts of people playing them. Huge amounts of activity on them. But why do they do that? I think it's just because it's easy. It's purely about the rewards. It's because there's easy gold. You know, it really is. That's why they do it. It's not because it's big and cinematic and epic necessarily. Maybe for their first run or two. But it's because it's easy gold. However, that first run or two is very important. Because what it means is all those new people who come into the game at some point will accidentally intersect on a map at the exact perfect time that a world boss is going on. And they will get blown away. They'll be like, holy shit, about 1 million people just came and then a dragon spawned on the beach. Or even some of the boring ones, you know, oh, and there was a big robot that appeared on this platform and everybody was blowing it up and there were all these flashy lights everywhere. And I don't really know how much damage I was doing, but I'm not very well geared anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it was really cool, right? And that, boom, that grabs people. It's got a lot of value. So I see no reason why, you know, Guild Wars 2 Cow shouldn't continue to have even very basic world bosses like that, right? That actually fit into that proper designated schedule. True Pixel says, when are they looking to release the next X-Pack? Well, we had this conversation. It's, in my opinion, it's 2 years away. To think it's next year, which would be a 2-year gap between Heart of Thorns and is bonkers to me. Alright. Listen, they have 230 people, okay, working on Living World. Let's say this is wrong, but and have produced nothing for a year. And you're telling me that the 70 people working on Expansion 2 have created an entire expansion in 2 years? Come on. It's not. It's no. Just don't forget as well that Expansion 2 people. What you saw, the Heart of Thorns 2.0 stuff, right? That added the Hero's Choice chests and, you know, really inflated the amount of currencies you could get and the accessibility of everything and, you know, what was it, doubled the amount of experience you get just from random kills here. All of that stuff, the expansion, which is basically the biggest PvE patch we've had. Since Heart of Thorns release, the largest PvE patch that we have had, the largest single patch, wasn't the Living World team. It was Expansion Pack 2 team. But despite that, they're still going to be ready for an expansion a year from now. No chance. You're having a laugh. So I think it's going to be 2 years away. Minimum. Yeah, you know, talking about Shadow Behemoth, just got mentioned there in chat. You know, I really do think Shadow Behemoth has a ridiculous amount of value for Guild Wars as a whole. Having particularly big, explosive, badass, exciting wild bosses in the early game, the early maps, that's really important, and that has sickening amounts of, you know, value for this game. The amount of people who fall in love, or, you know, they have that moment when you start playing a game, right? You're battling with the UI, you're trying to figure out what, you know, where you stand with it, what the game wants you to do, how it's asking you to act, you know, what the optimal way to play is, what not the optimal way to play, sorry, that's going to make you think the wrong thing. How to get the most fun out of the game, what the game is expecting of you, how it functions, how it differs to games of that same genre that you've experienced before, and so on and so on and so on. Basically, it can be a bit fatiguing to start a new MMO. It really can. And what you're desperately looking for as that player is the moment where you're like, I understand this now, and that was fucking awesome. That was really cool. I get what they're going for. This was badass. And do you know what Shadow Behemoth is? That is the value that Shadow Behemoth has. And to a lesser degree, what they did in the other maps too. You know, with Fire Elemental and stuff. These are the moments where people are like, that's their snap moment where they're like, shit, I love this game. This game is awesome. And they're looking for more of that. And again, ArenaNet knew that. That's why you see Heart of Thorns the way that Heart of Thorns is. Because essentially what the Octovine is, and what the nighttime event in Verdant Brink is, and what how Dragon's Stand all funnels you into one particular massive event, that is all the logical end game continuation of that experience. Oh, I missed that overlay. I'm so sorry. What was that? Let's have a look here. Eleanor, welcome 2 months, dude. It's awesome to see you. Oh, sorry, I almost rezzed him there, and then I didn't. GHKUGLBP says, off topic, I don't know if this is new, but I've not found this dialogue noted anywhere on the internet, so I assume it may be in Ratasum, down in the hall. There's a protector golem that is about to kill a resident Asura before it resets. Now, I'm pretty sure that I've heard of that before. There's a lot of hints in Ratasum about, or suggestions of the golem uprising, and, you know, oh, could it happen again? Usually they're using it for comedic effect, but I'm sure it's also one of these little things that these, you know, the devs might play with one day, just to fuel people's imagination about the universe. My first Shadow Behemoth, I didn't even get a hit in before he was dead. He used to die really fast. That's true as well. I mean, I remember as well my early experiences in the alphas where it was just like me on the map. And, you know, no one else was even necessarily really around. I remember just how magnificent and badass and awesome he felt to approach. You know, when it's just you and one other guy, and you can't even kill him. You don't even have a chance to kill him on old balance like that. But it was just incredible. And I remember the convention demos. What got people most abuzz during the convention demos when people could first start exploring Queensdale and stuff? It was the Shadow Behemoth, and anyone who'd managed to get a glimpse of him and see what he looked like. Oh, there's a raw excitement there that it's just so, it's long gone. I just don't ever feel it anymore with Guild Wars from those old convention days, which is natural, obviously. I don't fault the game for that entirely. You spend a long time with something and you're going to lose some sense of wonder about it. Another really important part of Shady B is how he's positioned on the map, something that past him only tech has to a bit of a lesser degree, which is the entire map funnels into one location in a natural way that is achieved while exploring. I don't know whether I agree you are necessarily funneled into the God's Lost Swamp in Queensdale. Because I think it is quite easy to avoid it altogether and exit the map through Claypool to get to Kessex Hills. Or, you know, accidentally move out into Gendara and even sure you again then realise you're low level and move back in. I think just the nature of map completion means that everyone's going to end up walking everywhere. I mean, the one quite clever thing about God's Lost Swamp, though, and they didn't really do this elsewhere, is the God's Lost Swamp heart, Renown Heart, is actually quite grindy. It takes a lot longer than a lot of the other hearts in the map, and I believe that's a specific play there from ArenaNet to make sure people stay in God's Lost Swamp for a bit longer and thus have a higher chance of experiencing this world boss early on. And they don't really do that elsewhere. When you look at the Thormanova reactor, the heart there isn't particularly more hard than any other heart around. When you look at the location of the Svanir Shaman... Well, see, Svanir Shaman's quite interesting, because I don't honestly believe he was ever designed to be on the level of the Shadow Behemoth. I think later on he was kind of retroactively viewed that way, and that they, you know, put him on the schedule. But I think really he was just... I mean, obviously he's a meta, but I think really he was just kind of, you know, a big bad boss that they wanted to be cool. It just felt after the first year it began to fade a bit. Lots of changes that weren't really in the right direction for fun. Yeah, I mean, do you know what's quite interesting? The idea of writing a list down of every single change that you don't agree with since the game came out. I wonder if you did that, right? I wonder if you wrote down a list of every change you don't agree with, and then you compared it to a list of every change you do agree with, which list would end up bigger? WP, what do you think the new Fractal will be like? I've got no idea. I've got no idea. Well, okay, no, I do have a few ideas. I think it'll be an exciting new map. I think the story of it should hopefully be somewhat interesting. I think it will employ a lot of the dialogue techniques we see in the raids, which alone is going to make it very, very cool. I think it will probably be... this is pretty blind speculation, but I think it's probably going to be like kind of open worldy in that you have lots of objectives to accomplish, but no specific defined order in which to do them. I think I'm basing that more on how they treated the Thormanova reactor fractal. But I might be wrong. They might do an incredibly linear little experience as well. I think you'll see a lot of use, I think, baked into this fractal. It depends on how they sort of filter it into the 100 dungeons or the 100 floors that we already have. But I think you'll see a lot of mechanics like hard built into it that play with scaling in more interesting ways than we've seen before. Because I think that's important to the devs, and I think that's right for it to be important to the devs too. So stuff like entirely new abilities and phases and concepts that roll in as scales increase, rather than just damage and things increasing. Shortening windows of opportunity for key tails against bosses, all that kind of stuff. WP, do you see the future of this game in a more positive or negative manner? It depends on the next expansion, and it depends on Living World. Bit of a cop-out answer, because that could basically be my answer from launch day, but till now, but yeah. At its heart, do I now believe that Guild Wars 2 has the core systems it needs to be an incredible game, as long as they build the content for them? Is an interesting question, which I didn't read from chat, I've just said that to myself. And the answer to that... it depends on a variety of topics. I think as an RPG, yes, actually. Not as an RPG in terms of leveling, but as an RPG in terms of the way Elite Specialization works and how they expand the characters and what the character can do each expansion. I actually think they've hit the nail on the head there. I think that's incredible. I think they've done really, really well. And I think that's an incredibly exciting, expandable part of the game that has been really well thought out, and it isn't entirely devoid of flaw, but is very, very strong. So I think, yeah, it's good there. In terms of providing an experience where you feel a sense of progression without introducing gear treadmills and power creep, I think, yeah, they've done pretty well. About as well as you can do as well. However, in one of the most, if not the most important thing for me, its ability to tell story and deliver a rich and compelling universe and vast quantity of lore. I don't think it is, no. I don't think Guild Wars 2, with the current systems it has right now, I don't think it's ever going to be a good game. Unfortunately. Only because I really do believe lore books and bestiaries and, a redesigned, God, how do I describe this? Basically, I think the way that they deliver dialogue right now is absolutely naff. down to how easy it is to miss random ambient dialogue from NPCs who talk, you know. So, for example, a good example is Heart of Thorns, all right? You can go down to Zin's old lab with the Dermot Priory NPCs down here, and there's a couple of, you know, guys that will talk every, you know, 5 minutes on various intervals. They'll have spoken voiced dialogue about where they are and what they're doing, and it will be kind of interesting, that flavor dialogue. But it's such a pain as a player to actually extract that information out of those NPCs. You have to stand around doing nothing. You best hope that you're playing the game with a friend and you've got some shit to talk about, because otherwise you're just going to wander past. There's no valuable incentive for people to do that. And so they miss out on huge amounts of dialogue, massive amounts. Especially when you look back at the core game. Heart of Thorns didn't even add a city of any description, really, that was properly filled. Oh, I don't really count Tyria, alright? But when you look at stuff like Divinity's Reach, there's so much cool dialogue back when this was the Great Collapse, and there were all the conspiracy theories and things, and talking about the sewers, and talking about the drakes in the sewers. And when you get all the cool little information about the old heroes, and, you know, the Devonner's group and stuff when you're in Rurikton, and when you hear about what's going on in Cantha in the Eastern Commons or at the Austin Quarter, and you hear about what might be going on Alona. There's a lot of cool dialogue, and I think the way that Arena have that implemented in the game, they're trying to create this sense of a living world where NPCs randomly say stuff to each other, but because that's not accessible on the player's terms, I think that's awful, and there's no sign that they'll ever change that. I also think then, as an extension of that, and probably more important than what I just mentioned, when you press F on an NPC, it's got that little dialogue box that's tiny. And it'll give you like 3 lines worth of dialogue, and then you sort of have to click through. And I get it. They're trying to make people... They're trying to hide walls of text because you have to interact at each little thing. I think that's awful. I think our opportunities to roleplay in this game, since the personality system was aborted because it wasn't, you know... It wasn't, you know, it didn't get the TLC that it needed. It wasn't implemented properly in the first place. Now that they've dropped that out, I feel like there's no real way to develop a personality or a sense of presence as an RPG from the story perspective with our character. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that this game just misses. We've just been talking about how poorly dynamic events deliver story. And on a technical level, you know, that comes down to the fact that in a dynamic event, especially one that can fail or is hard or is scaling quite high, all right? It's very difficult to truly understand exactly why an event is going on. You know, one of the first... Back when Guild Wars 2 first came out, and it was more of the Wild West, like on YouTube, you know, you get a lot of random people doing lots of random videos about different topics and things. One blew up, and there's a very important reason it blew up, where a guy was talking about one of the dynamic event chains in Lornar's Pass, which starts down here at False Lake, and you basically help someone gather some artifacts, and you have a bit of a fight with a boss here, and then it can branch. You can like end it there if you fail one thing and do something else, or it can go all the way over here and end up spawning a world boss. But all the dialogue, if you really pay attention to it from the very start, it tells a really cool story, a really nice quest, really nice little experience, and it's fun. And when you have the context of how those dynamic events are going along, it's really powerful, and it's valuable content, and it's fun. But 99% of the players that play this game do not experience that, because dynamic events don't clearly... We don't have UI that properly shows us when dynamic events are going to chain into other dynamic events. We don't clearly know when an NPC is about to continue talking and have more dialogue. We don't have the luxury of truly being able to pay attention to NPC dialogue while events are going on, because you're focusing on the event itself a lot of the time. So dynamic events are pretty poor for telling story beyond there as well. So, you know, and that's a huge part of how this game delivers its story. So that drags us down big time too. I think that the Heart of Thorns story journal, we've got to a good position now. And I think when it comes to raids delivering story, we've got to a really good position now. So that does spell a brighter future for the franchise. But these other things, and namely the lack of entire things altogether, like lore books and like the bestiary, as I mentioned before, or more just like a codices, right? Just the ability to actually pull up your map and mouse over a point of interest and get a big block of flavor text about this area of the world and why it's like that and why there's a point of interest, and, you know, quotes and poems and stories and experiences of various characters in the universe, right? Just like how in Guild Wars 1 I could click an outpost and at least get a little bit of flavor dialogue about something like that. There just is no equivalent for that in Guild Wars 2. There is no text and lore on loading screens. There is nothing. There's crappy little lines, maybe 2 lines worth on ascended weapons and things. And there's a vague idea of stories going on that is so detached and devoid of a real fundamental basis of a story in terms of, like, the collections. You know? What, I mean, you're really telling... Okay, my point is this, okay? Legendary armor, right? That's our lore there. The envoys shepherd the souls of the dead to their place in the underworld. By studying spiritual energy, you may learn their secrets and start your journey towards building a truly legendary set of armor. That's a great starting point, don't you guys think? Shit. There's some serious lore. There's some serious good we can get out of that. We're going to study spiritual energy. We're going to learn the secrets of the envoys. Well, guess what, guys? I'm 15 out of 18. I must have learned quite a lot of their secrets by now. Oh, wait, except I haven't, because all I've done is grab a bunch of crap that had very little context for doing it, and none of it had any dialogue or flavor lore or anything to explain it to me in the first place. I just did it because it was in this list here. Oh. Have I really learned the secrets of the envoy? Has this really developed anything? No, it hasn't. It just hasn't. So anyway, the original question is, do I think, you know, Guild Wars 2... Am I generally positive or negative about Guild Wars 2's future? It depends on the area you're talking about. But one of the most important areas to me, which is the way they deliver the story, I've got to say I'm not particularly positive. And that has a knock-on effect, you know. If I was positive about that, you know, I would find myself far more excited about returning to Cantha and Alona or entirely new continents and, you know, the borders of the maps and stuff. But I'm just not really. WP, what do you think about how they changed the White Mantle from desperate hero-turned villains into one-dimensional boogie monsters? I think they did that back in Guild Wars 1, though, so... I wouldn't blame that. I wouldn't put that as a failing of the modern devs. I think that happened with Eye of the North, actually. And I think the only reason that they weren't anything less than that in Prophecies was just because Prophecies was a massively convoluted, twisting, turning plot. I think that in Prophecies, they basically were supposed to be just as one-dimensional as enemies as any other, but they got a bit more story written about them slowly over time, and as a happy accident of the way that everything ended up working out, there was kind of this cool little line of thinking you could go down where they seemed to just be desperate here, you know, trying to protect their own interests rather than anything else, but ArenaNet never really embellished on that too much. And when we started dealing with them again when Eye of the North came around, they certainly didn't embellish on that too much. And when we started dealing with them again in the War in Kryta, they really didn't embellish on that. Well, okay, they did a bit, because outside of the game, the campaigns that you saw on the internet with the Obey versus Dismantle and stuff, like, that relished in the audience's ability to, you know, say, yeah, I'm White Mantle and sympathize with them. But when it actually came down to the content in-game, you know, the White Mantle were just douchebag enemies that we slayed in their thousands and were hiring bandits and things to roam the countryside and whatever. So, you know, that change had already happened. That isn't a Guild Wars 2 thing. I don't think that the Guild Wars 2 devs are wrong for representing the White Mantle in the raids the way that they have. I think it's the only way logically they could have. And anyway, it's not a dead idea either, by the way. The idea that the White Mantle are more compelling villains if they're like a shade of grey is all well and good, and that's not totally killed dead in the water, because all they have, but what would be important if they want to go in that direction, I think what is important is you start out clearly demonstrating to the audience that the White Mantle are bad guys, and then you sort of start chapter 2 of the story, in which you start showing maybe the other side and make them a bit more sympathetic. That can still absolutely happen and might even be the smart way of doing it. So, you know, who's to say that they're going to be continue to be as one-dimensional as they have been in Guild Wars 2 so far? They might not be. What's up, Lone Vault? Yeah, late stream indeed. 20 to 6 in the morning. Fighting like cats and dogs at 4 in the morning. Who knows that song? If anybody in chat actually knows that song, I will praise you very vocally. Oh god. It's not exactly a rare song. I just don't really have much talent in singing it. also, I seem to remember the personal story, the human personal story that touched on the White Mantle was pretty interesting as well. It was a little bit more balanced. So I remember shitting myself with joy when I was reading about that stuff. I was so excited, so happy about it. About the potential. This is nice. People should run stuff like this more. This is really cool. Very relaxing. If Lazarus is back, will they also bring back the Titan? That's a great question. The Titans were referred to in the most recent wing, in sort of a sum up, you know, to try and get people on speed with the story. I would be quite excited to see the Titans in Guild Wars. Okay, well, let's just start before I start going down that. First, you have to understand it's a kind of a crazy, stupid idea because according to the lore, all right, it would be a pretty big cop out and stretch of reality to bring them back. The Titans were being created by Abaddon in the Foundry of Failed Creations as a part of his army to try and, you know, break into Tyria and unleash Nightfall. All right. So to bring the Titans back would feel a bit weird. However, okay, now we can start going a bit further. With that said, all right, there is a chance Titans weren't exclusively made in the Foundry of Failed Creations. In fact, there is an idea that Abaddon sure was manufacturing a lot of them in the Foundry of Failed Creations, but that doesn't mean that they are exclusively created there. And that doesn't mean that there weren't Titans that preceded Abaddon's actions. You know, there's a good chance that Abaddon got imprisoned, went mad, whatever, started devising this plan and thought to himself, well, shit, what can I do? Well, and then he learns of these things, the Titans. And he's like, okay, right, if you torture a soul enough under X, Y, and Z circumstances, then it becomes a Titan. Cool, I guess I'll create a manufacturing facility for that, and thus the Foundry of Failed Creations is born. Now, ArenaNet can easily make that clear to us, that Titans weren't exclusively from the Foundry. That's the ones that we knew 250 years ago, but they're actually, you know, they're a part of this world, a part of this universe, this mythos. This is what happens to souls under duress in that situation. And many more than just Abaddon have been responsible for the creation of Titans before. And so, yeah, there could be more Titans. And so they could... It's not impossible for the devs to put them back. And so then with all that said, is it actually worthwhile? What value does that add? Well, it gets the old guys pretty excited again because, you know, they like the Titans in the previous game, and it's kind of an easy way of, you know, currying some favor with where your story is going with people like that. But also, I'm actually just quite excited about the prospect of Titans because Guild Wars 2 technically is a much more impressive game when it comes to enemy designs and capabilities of enemies and, you know, just graphically, they'd be very impressive to see. The old Titans looked a bit stupid and a bit naff. But the concept behind them is really cool. These hateful things that actually blend and merge into their environment. Most people, when they think of Titans, okay, they think of like these fiery creatures, these big fiery creatures. But the truth about the Titans is they actually molded and changed based on their environment. When you fought Titans in the Maguma jungle, they looked more grassy. And they'd sort of adapted and changed. And that's exciting. That's cool. I like that. Think about it in Guild Wars 2. Also, think about just the word itself. Titans. There is certainly... And the Titans, at the time of their release in Prophecies, okay, aside from a couple of worms, siege worms in the Crystal Desert, and I believe like one frost worm, maybe? Aside from those, the Titans were the largest enemies in Guild Wars. They were huge. And we've seen fundamental visual redesigns occur on NPCs already as they've moved from 1 to 2. Look at Oak Hearts, right? Oak Hearts were kind of lame looking in the previous game. They are fucking badass, sweet looking things in this game with lots of interesting and exciting variants. Again, they're one of those moments, you know, we were talking about stuff like, you know, the Shadow Behemoth moment. They're one of those things as well where you see one of those wandering around, you're like, cool, wow, damn, this thing looks awesome. All right? They could, you know, do a pretty big redesign of the way that Titans look. That is still faithful to the lore, because it's kind of there in the lore that they're quite malleable and adaptive in their appearance. There are these absolutely giant, badass, scary creatures, right? They can really make it go, swing it in a direction that makes them huge. You know, if you can have something as big as Gorseval, right, wandering around, Why don't we have Titans of that size, right? That would be cool. I think Titans would be a great place to go back. And so, yeah, I would not be against it. Just another reason that doing the White Mantle again is exciting, actually. I mean, my chief excitement about it all has always been Sol D'Alessio, but that's pretty good as well. It could tie to the consortium investigating leyline energy and end up opening a portal to the actual mist realms. And you could just find Titans elsewhere in the mists. Oh, Fingerlight! Sup, dude? Since we're talking about immersion lore, how do you feel about massive cities, can't being areas you can't traverse in less than 5 steps? I realise this is a common problem in games, but do you think the fact that ArenaNet don't want dead space makes the game feel very gamey, removes a lot of the world to me? Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. Maybe not in terms of, you know, just having big maps, but I feel like your average... How can I explain this? The game does feel very gamey. There isn't much immersion there anymore. When I think of exploring the Maguma jungle, I'm really not immersed. Now, honestly, the longer you spend playing a product, the less immersed you're going to get. And the harder it is to maintain that suspension of disbelief. The more you're going to realize you're playing a game, the more you're going to realize your incentive for exploration is like agenda driven, and that agenda has something nebulous and not real behind it. Like, oh, I'm doing it for a collection. I'm exploring here because... All right, let's look at the stream right now, okay? What am I doing? What is this stream? This stream is me doing map completion on this map so that, because the game has kind of arbitrarily told me in this collection that I need to do it so that I can eventually get a weapon. Now, that's quite an abstract series of things that have pushed me to do this now. Not to mention the fact that my actual experience of doing it is also pretty weird in that I'm just basically following this tag around and waypointing from here, and here, everywhere. There's just something about the way that the game has developed now, in that we know that it's made up of partitioned off little maps, each with a certain player cap size, each with a specific meta event associated with it. This extends to Silverwaste and Dry Top, by the way. That just feels... It's not that immersive video game exploration you'd think it is. But I think what's important is it the first time you go through? And I think it is the first time you go through. I think the first time I went through, I genuinely did have that feeling. So maybe it's not super bad. But yeah, I think areas with lots of dead space are perfectly okay. And I'm not scared of it, really. My go-to example for this has always been Shadow of the Colossus. And we'll see how people feel about The Last Guardian as well, now that it's got a confirmed release date of next year. Whether that kind of experience still holds up in modern markets, but I think it will. How are my fish doing, by the way? They're doing very good. I keep watching the filter and just just being scared that one of them's like weak and swimming against the filter like the one that died. Right now there are 3 near the filter, but I think they're okay. The water's also a little bit cloudy, and I don't know whether that means I have to do a water change or whether it's just the bacteria in the water is at a certain cycle, or the algae's doing something and I need to leave it, or what. I think the only thing I can do is make sure that they're not swimming near the filter too much. I started feeding them a little bit less as well, because apparently if you overfeed them, then that could be murkiness in the water. And they went mental for food yesterday. They loved it. Are we going up or down? We're going down, yeah? They really, really liked it. I've never seen them swim so fast when I fed them yesterday after waiting a little bit longer, so yeah. Yeah, so Noctower is a good point. It's an MMO. It obviously needs gamey systems behind it to keep you playing. Correct. And I agree with that. Which is why I think maybe we should focus just on that first experience through. And that's a difficult thing to do after, you know, your first experience of Heart of Thorns, as short as it was, is, you know, amounting to maybe 12 hours of gameplay, 20 at a push. And your average consistent player these days, they've sunk hundreds of hours into Heart of Thorns. So it's very easy for that experience, which is oh so important, to be forgotten and to be misremembered and to be valued as less than it actually should be. So you got to watch that. And I'm trying my best to watch it. For me, the height of Heart of Thorns for me was as I moved into Auric Basin, because I genuinely had spent a long time in Verdant Brink, and I genuinely was very into the story, and it had the cool cutscenes to do with air right towards the end, and then you have this giant thing here, and it was beautiful, this area here, and I really did feel very wide-eyed and excited, and, you know, the prospect of even more maps in the future as well was very good. Things had deteriorated massively by the time I got to Tangled Depths, unfortunately. And Dragon's Stand, I honestly don't consider a regular map, so bit of a shame there, but yeah. Again, issue of quantity to me. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for The Last Guardian too. The music on that trailer was incredible. I'm really not a guy that's particularly emotional or whatever. I'm a bit, you know, a bit boring. Okay. But just for some reason, I don't know what it was, for some reason while I was watching that at E3, and the music of that trailer, I must have watched it like 4 or 5 times in a row just to listen to the music. And when like the character spoke in Simish or whatever, you know, where he's just saying gobbledygook, but it's supposed to represent a real language. And he's asking the griffin, "Are you okay? Are your wings hurt?" I like choked up a little bit, and I don't know why. It was really, it's so orchestral and beautiful. Oh my god. It just seemed like, what a brilliant story. What an epic idea. And how it was lovely. It was really good. I'm looking forward to playing it. If I get a PS4, that is. There's too many games I want for it. The most epic part of Heart of Thorns was the first time I did Dragon's Stand. Yeah, I do remember being pretty blown away when I first did Dragon's Stand. But for some reason that experience doesn't stick with me. Maybe because it gets tarnished by the billions of other times I've done it since then, where it's just, you know, I'm only doing it for the reward. I do stand by what I said. I was bored of Dragon's Stand by the second time I went through it. You know, the second path. There was still an entire path I hadn't even seen yet, but I was pretty much, oh yeah, I understand what they're doing now. And I think it might come down to Dragon's Stand for me. This might just be a problem with it inherently multiplayer. I think my problem with Dragon's Stand is the same problem I've had with Wing 3. For both Wing 3 and with Dragon's Stand, I was denied the ability to experience a true progression with it. I played the content, but I never had the weight of experiencing it for the first time for myself. And I was denied the experience of learning the mechanics as I went and truly getting into them deeply and understanding them fully and feeling like I really came up or helped to come up with the strategy that was a winning strategy. Now, having that experience made Wing 1 and 2 for me immeasurably more fun. But Wing 3, I just kind of went in with a group of people that already knew what they were doing, and they were just like, yeah, do this, 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 and this. I don't even understand it fully, and it was just so much more boring. Just so much more boring. And I think Dragon's Stand may have been quite similar. I felt like, you know, I didn't truly earn that win. You know? Because by the time I got to Dragon's Stand, because I'd taken my time playing the expansion, by the time I got there, the method of running in big circles was already established. And in a lot of ways, it's a real shame that the stream has shrunk to what it has, because if we were still having, you know, like over 1,000 a day that were watching us, I would be so happy to go and host a Dragon Stand with you guys right now, where we try and do it our own way, right? Like try and do it a different way and like have that experience of progression or something. But your average player just will never get that, and I think that a lot of people get denied that in all the maps. I at least got to have that experience in Verdant Brink and on the Octavine. Do you guys remember when we did that stream where we got one of the first Octavine kills ever for the expansion? And we tried really hard with Tangled Depths again and again and again to kill the Garrett. That was a lot of fun. And eventually we did. We got our kill on it. I think it was EU that ended up winning, right? It's EU versus NA. That shit was cool. Nocta says, yeah, you waited like 2 weeks to get into Dragon's Stand. Well, but you say that's kind of my fault. But then the people I'm trying to argue for right now are the people who might only be coming into Heart of Thorns today. They will never get that experience. And that's their fault because they didn't know about the game until today. You know, all I'm saying is this isn't me pointing blame and being aggressive to people who, you know, were more enthusiastic and did it before me. All I'm pointing out is that it's regrettable. People are denied these things, you know. Just by virtue of the fact this is an MMO. And that wasn't designed to be soloable content. It just sort of comes with the territory. I think that was the first thing I said as well. Maybe it's just because it comes with the territory. Oh, was it NA the first on Geralt? I thought it was EU. I thought EU really nearly killed it or something. And then NA like balked up on a basic thing, even though they had the best run we'd ever had, and then EU came back and did it. Wasn't that it? Am I wrong? This commander's going quite slowly, but maybe it's a good thing. You guys are welcome to join me as well, by the way. Even EU got it first. I was with you. It's not that I can't claim credit. It was me running it. Of course I can claim credit. And so yeah, you say, oh, but you were playing, so you did have that choice. But the thing is, as well, it's not just for the new players. Yeah, I chose not to rush to Dragon's Stand. That's exactly what I'm talking about with like people. People feel like there's this constant pressure to rush and do something else, otherwise they might miss out. They might miss out. They might miss out, and that means they have to compromise on their own fun up until that point. This guy's gonna get defeated anyway. Yep, rip. Whew. You know, that's regrettable that people can't play at their own pace. They can't extract every little bit of fun systematically, bit by bit by bit. They've got to rush to Dragon's Stand, otherwise other people are going to figure out how to kill it without them, and then they miss out on what could have been the climax of the whole expansion for them. Oh, you're talking about Brexit. Oh, yeah, right. Random, but the Guild Wars 2 World PvP tourney was really intense. What, World versus World? One of the tournaments they did? Yeah, I know that the people doing that put in a lot of hours. What hero point are we doing here? Yesterday I saw the first quarter fail since tech was released. Pretty much. So content does become challenging again after a while if you're not on a map that's really prepared for tech. I'm pretty sure the same thing will happen with Dragon's Stand. See, that's so interesting as well to me, because I feel like, you know, let's say Cow comes out in 2 years, and then 2 years after that, they actually do it in 2 years after that. Good job, Arena. After Cow, we wait 2 years, and then, you know, we go back to Cantha or whatever. The next expansion comes out after that. At that point, I decide on a whim to go do a Dragon's Stand. And I pull a bunch of people in from LFG, and miraculously, I've got enough people to do it. And we head on in there, and we fail. Is that a good experience? Or is the point that a totally new guy goes along, tries to do Dragon's Stand, and he sits down and he figures it all out, and he succeeds eventually, and he feels like he's really earned that success? Is that a good experience? Yeah, you're probably right, it is. Any easy way to obtain Tyria Masteries? Sorry, I can't really tell you, because when the expansion released, ArenaNet just gave me all of them. I've never tried to get Tyria. I mean, I didn't even have all those Masteries done, because I don't really have any incentives for them, so. Sorry, I'm not a very good person to ask about that. Probably like doing Living World Season 2 and getting all those achieved in there. Probably. Alright. It's weird, he's just going for all the hero challenges, it seems. It doesn't seem like we're going too much. Oh, did that fail right at the end? Great. Let's try again. Ding. Okay, good. It's 8 out of 11 of those. What's my personal ranking for hardest raid boss? Again, I don't know how my assessment for raid 3 should really be rated. I don't know how good it qualifies. It does look like... I mean, I believe the general consensus is from multiple guilds that Wing 3 is far easier than the other wings. Like, by a wide margin. My true experience of Wing 3 in terms of progression was Encounter 1, which I spent about an hour on, and then we did. And then I spent a very short period of time on Encounter 2 and just left for the night. That was it. And then the other bosses I just kind of killed because I was with a group of people that knew how to do that. I don't know. I think probably the hardest boss is... It's either Sabather or Slothazor, I think. I think the best designed boss was Gorsable. Or very close second of Sabather. Oh, is that it? Are we done? Is he leaving? Are we doing it on our own now? Someone's definitely leaving. WP want to laugh. I always fail to do Veil Guardian. I guess I did at least 20 tries. 20 tries isn't too much. I mean, it is a lot, but it's not too much. I can tell you, in my opinion, the #1 issue with people who raid is they don't execute proper rotations, so their damage is far lower than it could be, and they're forced to participate for far longer than they should in encounters. Or they don't have the right gear and stuff like that. Just like fundamental issues. Fingerlight says, next Tomb Raider data dump. I need my fix. Oh, I'm really glad that you're watching all the way up there, Fingerlights. There's 4 episodes. Each one's about an hour long. I think that's right. Or it might be 3 episodes. That I still need to render because I spent all of yesterday rendering Soma. Which is now up to episode 19. If you tell me, Fingerlights, where the current series ends, I'll tell you how many episodes are in the next data dump. There might already be more on the drive than I thought. Having issues with Zero every week? Zero seems really easy. I've played Condi Necro there, and I've played Ellie, who's responsible for clearing the Bloodstone shards around the edge so that people have always got somewhere safe to kite. It really seems like the biggest killer on Zero is gliding issues, gliding mishaps where people die based on that, or RNG based stuff. The most exciting and cool part of the Zero fight is the people randomly getting teleported away and having to ad hoc on the fly figure out what their roles are and to get through. But they don't explore that concept enough. I think in any average Zero kill, there's only like 2 teleports like that will happen. Maybe 3 if you're lucky. If the Zero fight had a lot more of that going on, such that people really had to coordinate very comfortably to do it, I think it would be overall a much more interesting boss fight. But of course, the more that they put that in there, the more RNG they're going to start introducing, and the higher chance that, you know, both druids are going to go, well, your druid and your chrono, for example, are going to go away to the wrong place, and then you're fucked, kind of thing. We're going to fight Lazarus in an airship while he clings to a tower in Janthir, and we just have to press 1 for 5 minutes. You know what is quite crazy? Think about Zero for a second, guys. I don't know how many... Yeah, I have put footage of that on my channel already, all right? We have already seen Zero there. Zero is an incredibly cinematic and exciting fight. Now, honestly, the giant thing that's running around with you, you know, the illusion of Zero, doesn't really do much, right? Isn't really a real part of the fight. But if you think about how cinematic and awesome that fight is... Now, and think about what the devs are capable of, and actually pulling off in-engine, in successful patches and updates to go out now. Zero is, case in point, the best example so far. Look at what they're capable of. Now look at the Zaitan fight. How fucking awesome could they make Zaitan now? How awesome. It could be the best thing ever. Come on. ArenaNet, remake your personal story, please. Please remake your personal story. Ah. That would be the shit. It would be so good. There's so much untapped potential there now. Oh, and imagine, don't just imagine the mechanics of the fight, all right? And the way that, but actually, it could have the weight of a really well-told story behind it at the same time too, with real engaging gameplay, a real threat. Oh my god. ArenaNet could do so much with this engine in this game. I wonder if they have stats that show how many people, new players, free-to-play players or whatever, actually come in and experience the personal story. I wonder if they have stats for that. Because surely they must see people try the first couple and then just decide, fuck it, and never do it. The reason that they're not remaking Zaitan, guys, is because nobody goddamn gets that far in the personal story. That's why they're not doing it. But it's a catch-22, and it's an annoying situation because the reason that they're not getting to Zaitan is because everything before Zaitan, as well as Zaitan, sucks complete arse. And it's a big undertaking to fix all that. But it doesn't matter how good their Raid story is, and it doesn't matter how good their Heart of Thorns story is, and it doesn't matter how good Living World Season 3 story is, to an extent, because none of their new people are really getting there because they decide that they don't care about Guild Wars 2's story at the outset. No, I'm not getting on my high horse about this again. It sucks. Oh, while we've got you here, do you have any opinions on race armor clipping? Wait, what, me? I author all those char armor threads, so I've kind of been there, done that, but I haven't heard you mention it. I came up with the whole shitty precursor armor thing, especially with Charizard. I have talked about this before, and you're not gonna like my opinion. I don't really care. I don't really care about Fashion Wars 2. This armor, for example, I think is just default. Fucking. This is Forge Masters stuff. I don't even know. I don't really do Fashion Wars 2, so asking for my opinion on it's a bit stupid. Because I'm a bit flippant, I don't care. I just have no passion there. By the way, when are you planning on uploading the Tomb Raider? I'm too poor to afford access to your Google Drive. I kind of want to do a couple more episodes, and then I'll start uploading it. I mean, honestly, the temptation for me right now is to upload, to make the entire series and then upload it after. That way, there's never any gaps. Everyone gets an episode, one a day, and that's it. But whatever happens, I'm not going to upload it until I do another Guild Wars 2 video first. It's kind of suicide on YouTube to not cater to your core audience for like a week or two, and then start something totally new. Everyone would just shit themselves, so I'm not going to do that. I'll figure out. I'll find some inspiration for an actual Guild Wars video, and then that'll probably start afterwards. I was thinking about buying Heart of Thorns and playing Guild Wars 2 again for the raids, but my friend said it's hard to get into raiding groups. As an undergeared experienced player, is this true? I don't know. I'm sorry to say. I think most people won't admit that to you, that they don't know, but I don't know. My experience with raids was I had a group of people when Heart of Thorns came out that I wanted to play with. I played with them. They found other people to do now because I didn't really do it so much. I just PvP'd basically the entirety of the last 2 months. Or they didn't like the way I play anymore, or whatever it is. And I don't really have a group myself, and I've not tried to find another group. The only way I could have a real opinion on that for you is if I try and find a group now. And I can tell you whether it's easy or hard. You hear things on both sides of the spectrum there. You hear a lot of casual players who say, oh, it's impossible, and they'll complain about not being able to get in there. Then you also hear a lot of other people saying, oh, there's always practice runs and stuff going on. You've just got to try. All right? So here we've got the raiding section. These guys looking for experience. Oh, those are individuals. There aren't any actual groups here. I don't know. I'd like to think it's just as easy as dungeons were to do, but it's probably not because there's 10 people, obviously, and you need to find 9 other friends instead of just 4 other friends. That's a big difference. So I don't know. I'm sorry. WP is the next dragon, and final one is the water dragon. Don't have the name. If it is, do you think that all the meta events would be underwater, and maybe what happened on the northwest of the map? Northwest. Do you think we'll fight Steve up here? That's interesting. And that works in some curious ways as well. If we fought Steve up there, it leaves all this stuff down here for exclusively dealing with Alona and Cantha and stuff. You know, they're more like transitionary things. I don't know. I doubt ArenaNet knows either. It's probably way too far off in the future. I think fixing the original personal story would be way less beneficial than focusing on new stories. Oh, see, I don't agree. I don't agree. I mean, what do we say? Do you think, though? Okay, let me ask you this then, Lone Vault, all right? So Lone Vault, just so that everyone is clear, he says, I think fixing the original personal story is going to be way less beneficial than focusing on new ones. And obviously that sentiment is what many people agree with, and what it would seem ArenaNet themselves agree with. Otherwise, they would already be fixing the personal story, surely. So then I have a question for you. Is that just, that is the way things are forevermore? Or is there a point that no longer becomes true? Because here's what I can't help but look at. I can't help but look at 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, we're really pushing it now, right? Years worth of Guild Wars 2 content and story stuff, right? All of it, forevermore, across all those years worth of new content that the devs make, being undermined and ignored by a huge community of people that don't even give it a shot because they judged the entire franchise and what is to come based on the initial early experiences. And the thing is, we're not talking about core Tyria and the core personal story. We're not talking about, you know, just a couple of hours. It's easy as an experienced player to, again, forget about how long you can spend or something, or how much there is, all right? We're not talking about a tiny little insignificant sliver of the game that you just sort of get done with really quickly and then you move on to other stuff, right? In the grand scheme, yeah, you're going to spend a lot more time in Guild Wars 2 doing other stuff than just the story, sure, as a continuous player. But when we're talking about people who are a bit more flaky and are just sort of buying the most recent product and then moving on, and then, you know, they'll come back when the next one comes out or whatever. There is a huge amount of people who want a good RPG, who want a good story, who want a decent, you know, experience that will actually get them emotional or make them think or get them invested in a new world, who don't get that with Guild Wars, and there is nothing you or I can ever say to them to get them interested in Heart of Thorns or Cow or anything in the future. Because those people who would truly love, those people who would be ArenaNet's biggest fans, those people who would really dive into and really appreciate having a good RPG, right? Those exact people, the ones that ArenaNet want the most, the ones that would be the most fanatical about this, the ones who would earn them the most money, stick around for the longest, those very people are the same people who will want to play the first experience. You're not going to get a huge amount of people who are desperately in love with Guild Wars 2's story and what Guild Wars 2 offers as a whole, who are also willing to skip a mammoth amount of the early content, right? These people come into their RPGs and they want to know them from the start to the end. They want to get the full experience. And you can say to them, oh, hey, look, honestly, mate, the core experience isn't very good. Cow is fucking awesome. Cow is like 50 hours of incredibly detailed, badass, well-scripted story with really rich characters. None of them are one-dimensional. They all make you think. Everyone sides with different people. They're a really deep conflict, and it will get your adrenaline going. It's the best RPG I've ever played in my life, all right? You could say that to them, but then if you say, but don't play the side of the story, the people who would be most invested, they'll say, oh, but I want to get it all. I want to experience it all. And you'll say, yeah, but it's really crappy. And they'll say, okay, I understand it's crappy. Don't worry. I get you. It's crappy. I'm going to play it anyway, and I'll just wait. But then they'll get fatigued. Despite themselves, they'll get fatigued. Despite themselves, they'll think, oh man, yeah, this really is shit. And despite themselves, they might not make it to Cow. They might not make it through the Living World stuff. And yeah, you have people who are willing to skip ahead. And yeah, you have people who have the fortitude to push through. And yeah, you'll have people that, you know, accidentally just find themselves invested in the story, even when that wasn't even on the radar before they bought Cow and forward, right? But that's still a minority, in my opinion, and that's still a dismally low proportion of people that ArenaNet could otherwise have. You know, if you want Guild Wars 2 to really take the main stage, to really be understood as an incredible RPG, as having a great story, as being one of the excellent MMOs out there, alright? It cannot have an inconsistent experience. Particularly not an inconsistent experience where the inconsistently terrible part is the part everybody is funneled to at the beginning. No one will take your game with any measure of sincerity if the personal story as it currently stands is all that remains forevermore. So to me, I feel like it's not right to say, oh, it's more worthwhile to make new stories than go back and fix the shit we've already made. No, I'm sorry, you got to just sort of face facts. The personal story isn't very good. I appreciate people put a lot of work and hard work into it, and it feels crappy. And one of the main criticisms of ArenaNet is that they keep, you know, throwing shit in the dustbin, and I'm very vocal about that, right? Stop throwing stuff away. Look, just do some work and leave it. If it's not perfect, it's fine. It still has more value there than not. But in this situation, I feel like it does far too much damage. Yeah, sorry, Cow is just, it's just a theoretical name for the next expansion. Cogs of War, a char-based one. Anyway, we've been wandering mindlessly around. Let's actually start looking for POIs now, shall we? Let's go back up to the start of the map and progress through. We got 63% done here. That's not bad. Anyway, I might be beating a dead horse here. I might be, but I think it's hard to argue with what I said. Inks asked, do I like the way they're doing the story in Heart of Thorns? I do, yeah, I do. I still think it's a few shades shy of where I would want the franchise to be. Namely in terms of some bulk features that I think we need, as we talked about earlier on the stream. But I do think that this is an incredible improvement over what they used to do, with regard to the way it actually interlaces between the open world and instances, with regard to the way that our actual hero speaks, with the objectives we're tasked with in the instances themselves, with the options we get when we talk to various characters, with the coherency of the story, with the fact that it's not all fractured, fragmented little shitty things that have relevance for 5 chapters and then are never spoke of again. It's a more coherent story. It's much better. If the personal story was remade to the quality that Heart of Thorns was at, and at a great quantity as well, I think it would be incredible. It's still, again, it would be a couple of shades shy of where I desperately want, you know, thinking a perfect world would be. But hey, you know, you can't always ask for a perfect world. One more question before I leave for uni. Since you're not a fan of Fashion Wars 2 and styling your characters... Oh, sorry, hold on. Styling your characters. Why don't you make a contest out of it? Give us a bunch of guides, like a specific item or a dye we should use. I'm sure there are a ton of creative minds out there to create something for you. You haven't done any contests in a while, have you? No, I haven't, and I've got a big pile of gems that are slowly building up that I can use to fund a big, cool contest at some point. I don't know whether that excites me, though. This might be really irresponsible of me, but I've been flirting with the idea of using every single gem I've had for the past, like, year or so that ArenaNet have given me to do giveaways, and I haven't touched yet. I've been flirting with the idea of putting them all into one giant pool and throw out, like, one request or one task of the community, and just have it be this huge mammoth event. So, like, for example, Wood of Potatoes is giving away 50,000 gems to one person if they do X or Y or Z. Do you get what I mean? You know, to really do something big. I just don't have a concept for what that could be right now, and I don't have 50,000 gems, so it would be a few more months, quite a few more months. But I'd even fund that myself. So we got to go to the Order of Whispers outpost, which I'm not sure if we went to the right way there. Can you imagine that? That would be so cool. No. It wouldn't be something like beat raids and white gear. That's boring as shit to me. I don't care about that. Plus, that's quite that's pretty lame for everyone else. Also, that would be a group base. There's so many things wrong with that. It would be a team-based thing. So it's not like 50,000 gems go in one person's pocket. It's 50,000 gems that has to get split across 10 assholes. That already are going to be from the same elite few that have got plenty of money in the first place. A lot of them are content creators themselves. It'd be lame. I wouldn't be interested in that. It would be something more along the lines of the elite specialization competitions, or I don't know. I'd want someone to be really creative or really inspire something crazy cool that could go on with the game, like where they'd like to see the game go in the future, or something along those lines. The only argument I can see for not redoing the story is a sad one, is they think not enough new players are coming in to warrant the risk reward of the people they have if they hear the next year's revamping old content. Alright, interesting point. And again, this ties into, what is ArenaNet? Is ArenaNet a company that makes a single game forevermore? This MMO, are they still on the gravy train of, we want to make the best MMO of all time? We want to be it. We want to be the be-all and end-all. We want to beat everyone else at their own game. This is our product, and we are fucking awesome at it, and this is what we're going to do till the end of our days, right? Is that ArenaNet? If it is, it's an incredibly noble and just cause. But if that is their thinking, they cannot, at the same time, also sit there and think, oh, we're not getting enough new people to do the personal story anyway. Surely they want growth. Surely they want new people to come in. Surely they want to expand into wider audiences. Surely they're reliant on a continuous influx of new players. And again, I've said this before, for all the hate they got for Feature Pack 2, which catered and fostered to the new players, alright? I think that is absolutely a smart place to focus their attentions. Absolutely. And as veteran players, it's very easy for us to be upset about that, but I think, in general, that was very smart. And I wouldn't be too pissed to see more of that. That should always be a priority focus. Yes, you've got to satisfy your core customers, but you always need to be finding ways to bring in new ones. Someone said, easy solution, let old players replay it. Well, yeah, if they were going to remake the personal story, I'm sure they'd do it under the same format that this stuff is now, where it would have optional achievements as the part of the actual instanced parts that anyone can replay at any point. I'm sure that they'd do it that way. Well, that's how I'd choose it to be done. Fuck. Not just for the consistency, but because it's a good idea, full stop. Is there a guy dying there? What's he doing? Is he just fighting NPCs, or...? This map's a bit of a nightmare for map form. See, so Fingerlight said, I do doubt it's the case, but that is in my mind. It's the only reasonable argument for not doing it. Well, here's the other thing. What I think more realistically is the case is they think that for now it's better to prioritize new stories and new content, which at the same time is probably very much something they need to do. We're in a terrible content drought. The thing is that remaking the personal story would also break the content drought, by the way, if it was substantially different. I'm not talking about redoing a couple of little lines of voice acting and having basically the same exact core structure to everything. I'm talking about a proper remake where huge sections of the personal story that are just basically flawed and shouldn't have been there because they're copy-pastes of other storylines get destroyed and thrown away in favor of something much more interesting. I'm talking completely new shit here. All right? that vaguely follows the line of the previous story. And in that case, that totally breaks the content drought. A guy just logged in directly on my dead body. That's really weird. But yeah, I think, you know, ArenaNet already have so many things dangling where it's like, oh, we'll put it off to later. Oh yeah, we'll make you a guild arena that's in its own exclusive map. Don't worry, we'll just do that a little bit later. Oh yeah, we'll bring back season 1 of the Living World. We'll just do that a little bit later. There's a lot going, a lot of dangling fruit. I mean, honestly, I don't think you'll find a single person out of the 300 that says, oh no, I'd never want to do that. It's more like, yeah, we'd like to do it, but we think it's more important we work on the next expansion first. It's just when is the time right? That's the point. When's it right? Why is waiting between Heart of Thorns and Cow any different or worse than between Cow and Cantha? I just realised it's been 1 year since New Lion's Arch came out and cried. Thanks, Facebook memories. Is it really 1 year today? Dusty Demon Ninja says that. Is it really 1 year today? Because if it is, I have a video tour of the old Lion's Arch, which I'll happily throw out. There you go. That would be something for Guild Wars that I could do. A whole year since we got Disneyland. Not to keep comparing with WoW, but shipped the 3rd expansion, they revamped entirely the original zones and quests. Puts perspective on revamping just how the personal story is portrayed. Right, yeah, I mean, and WoW did very well with Cataclysm. People viewed Cataclysm as new content. They would have so much opportunity to do so many cool things. I mean, I am so brimming and inspired and full of ideas for little things they could do to improve the core game and the core story. Not just the story steps themselves as well, by the way, but just general things in those early maps. Even the later maps. There's a huge world of incredibly compelling, fun content out there that they could put in the game. That would enrich in this, the core experience of Guild Wars so much. Hello, potato, ready to die. Wow. What? Kill me now, potato, is your username. That's kind of weird. Dude, this is pretty frustrating. I'm honestly not stumbling on anything. We could go to Scar. Let's go to Scar, because we haven't even unfogged that area yet. We can sort of finish that area off. And at least I know how to get there. And it's not a very complicated area of the map, so let's do that. I think it's this way I want to go. No, hold on. This way? I think it's this way. Seriously though, people quit MMOs all the time. We need new players to not get to Zaitan and say, what the fuck is that? Okay, look, you're right. The problem isn't just Zaitan though, alright? Within perspective of the entire personal story, Zaitan isn't that bad. No, really, let me explain what I just said there. Hold on. Hold on, we're in some serious shit right now. Thank you for the host, Virulent. It's quite nice to see, actually. We're getting more people watching than I thought we would, even though we're in the dead of night. It's actually day out now for me. Look. Oh, I just got a text message. Zaitan's bad, sure. But honestly, by the time you've got to Zaitan, you're not expecting much anymore. You're really not expecting much. You've just experienced such a low quality, sort of flat, dead experience. Draining, slow experience. For countless hours. Zaitan's actually pretty cool. So what? We just get on the cannon and press a couple of buttons. It's damn cinematic at least. And you have this exciting, badass airship ride. And you feel like there's something really happening. And you know you're at the end of the game. And there's a lot of characters at your side. There's a lot of voice acting. There's a lot of cool little cutscenes. Even though the gameplay itself isn't that great. The end is, you know, when you view the entire personal story as a whole, it's not just about Zaitan. It's not, you know, Zaitan isn't this sudden moment where everyone's like, oh my god, this is really shit. I mean, yes, a lot of people think that, but you taper off a lot of people before then. If that wasn't true, we would have seen a Zaitan rework at some point. Not a whole personal story rework, but we would have seen a Zaitan one. I can guarantee you that what will have happened is ArenaNet will have seen basically no one's getting to Zaitan, and so what's the point in remaking it? Because nobody's even getting there in the first place. Oh, we're going to remake it so that one dude every 3 days sees it, you know? That's hardly an audience that you need to focus on if you want to thrive as a business. So you ignore it, you let it lie. The problem isn't just Zaitan. The problem is everything about the personal story leading up to Zaitan. And you know, one thing I must say, it's kind of hard when I stream, alright? I just sit here and I ramble away about a lot of shit. And, you know, I get a lot of people agreeing with me in chat, but I also feel like there's probably a lot of people who disagree with me, and it's very hard to remember that when I'm streaming. It becomes a bit of an echo chamber. It's quite hard. So this is me. I know nothing in chat has prompted me to say this, but I do also appreciate that there's probably a lot of people out there who don't agree with what I'm saying, right? Like, I'm sat here very definitively talking about how shit the personal story is. There are, on occasion, you know, I'll read a comment from someone who will say, oh yeah, I really cried when Siren died. Or like, I cried when the helicopter pilot toward, you know, what is it, Ajax maybe? When the helicopter pilot died towards the end of, in the Ore arc. I have no doubt that some people are out there that have that opinion. And it's probably quite arrogant for me to say this, but I feel like those people are the minority. And it's always easy to say everyone else is in the minority when they don't hold your beliefs. But yeah. I think the reason we haven't seen many changes to the personal story is because, as it stands, it's fairly irredeemable. I think whatever changes we have seen to the personal story come out of hard blocking issues that the devs have to fix. They're always going to be a top priority. Any game company that doesn't prioritize those higher than anything else is doing it pretty wrong. And any other changes probably just come out of passion from individual devs who want to see minor improvements. What is going on here? This guy just teleported here. Who is this guy? What is this? Yeah, hi. We just saw you do that. J Teddy. Why do I feel like I recognize that account name? What was that? You just fucking TP'd to us. I saw your effects bug out and zip across the map. What happened there? Oh, it was teleport to a friend, was it? Oh, alright. I was almost going to cry foul. Dude, that cannot have been worth it. Oh, you got 99 teleports. How have you got so many TP to a friends? Wow. Jesus. Zaitan fight, GHKUG blah 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 says, Zaitan fight was an interestingly disappointing experience. Just left me the feeling of, that was it? Yeah. Fingerlight says, as someone who took 2.5 years to complete the personal story the first time, though, I could say, yeah, I wasn't interested in it. Right? Yeah, I'd be fascinated to see the metrics. Like, at what point do people stop? See, in my opinion, even the intro tutorial sections of the game could be far better at immediately engrossing people in this game and in this story. And I applaud ArenaNet for obviously recognizing it's very important. And compared to most MMOs of the time when this came out, they did a very good job. You know, they put you against a really badass, at least looking boss, and they kind of throw you into the action immediately. But I feel like, oh my god. Please, no. No, I didn't want to double tap. Come on. But I feel like immediately, even right there at the start, they could have done better. And don't forget as well, there's a big community aspect of this as well with MMOs. I would bet that compared to other genres of video games, MMOs probably have less players who join them as individuals than other games. So what I mean there is, we got to break combat. That guy's going to snipe me as well in a second. Come on, I was not stood in that. We got to break combat with this dude, so we're going to kill him. There we go. So what I mean by that, and why this is important, is because It means that a lot of people who come into Guild Wars 2, because it's an MMO, are doing it because their friends encourage them or their friends told them about it, and they want to go through and have like that cooperative experience. And if their friend is already experienced with the game, you're going to find a vast majority of people who come into Guild Wars 2 have this coming out, right? And it's going to be, oh, hey, cool, what's up? Yeah, let's play, what race should we be? I don't know, man, you can pick whatever race you want, this will be cool. Oh, yeah, okay, I guess I'll play a Char, blah, blah, blah. Duke Barradin dies. He's like, okay, cool, all right, what do we do now? Should we follow the green starbursts? And his friend, in a vast majority of situations, is going to say, oh no, fuck that. That's just the story. The story's shit, don't worry about it. I haven't even finished it. You don't need to finish it. It's not a part of the game. We need to get you to level 80. We need to get you to the current expansion. We need to push it. And because of that community aspect of it, you get even less people appreciating it. And that is not an argument for why you should never revamp the personal story, right? Because that is not how it has to be. There is another world where you kill Duke Barradin, and the guy says, oh, what should we do? I guess, you know, I guess I have to rebuild my warband now, because they already understand where the story's pushing them to. Oh, I guess I kind of want to make up my warband. And the guy's like, yeah, it'll be really cool. You get to pick this guy, this guy, this guy. Yeah, honestly, this is where this is really, really fun. I can't wait for you to see some of the bosses later on. Let's go ahead. Let's do the story. All right? We could live in that world too. And guess what? Both worlds push people into the current expansion. And one more than the other. But you have to pay attention to that. Alright, let's get the waypoint. Fingerlight says that he quit during the level 30 Asuran story and started doing it again during my Iron Man playthrough. Wow, really? You know, it's funny. Again, like, I think it'd be really cool to see the metrics of when and where people quit. Because I think you'd see a huge amount of people quit around that level 30 place. And I think a lot of players wouldn't be able to identify why they quit. Just a vague sense of being kind of bored by it. But I think the real reason that a lot of people will quit at moments like that is because the second the plot takes a massive U-turn, a massive disconnected U-turn, such that you're no longer dealing with anything you've been dealing with in the past already. Already you've gone through 3 different story arcs that apparently have no payoff or connection to one another whatsoever, except in the most basic of respects. That at that point, it feels like the plot is meandering a little bit too much, and a bit too aimless, and a bit too difficult to follow. And you haven't really had any great emotional payoff on it anyway. And so, I may as well just not bother with it. What? I'm joining an order now? What? I haven't even heard of any orders before. I guess this is just sort of the forced way that the game... you just get reminded you're playing a game and you don't really care. You just sort of blow it off. And I reckon those would be the high spikes where people just sort of generally stop. And why don't you guys tell me? What do you think? If you are in chat right now and you have a main in Guild Wars 2 and that main hasn't completed the personal story, all right? There's got to be a couple of you out there, right? Tell me what level personal story that main is at. And if you can as well after that, maybe explain why. I would love to hear it. I would expect a lot of around level 30s. Maybe even less. Let's go up this way. Oh my god. Dude, I love our Twitch chat sometimes. This is cool. Look at how many big paragraphs of text there are coming in. There's not enough people just spamming emoticons, guys. What are you doing? This isn't how Twitch is supposed to be. Oh, shit. It's up there. This guy says, I'm at level 60 personal story on this character. Level 60 is... What exactly? Is that just as you've started the founding of the Pact? That's after Claw Island, right? So the big offense that your mentor who you've connected to, you finally feel like the plot has got to a point where there's something cohesive and, you know, some sense of permanence going on, and then they just kill it and replace it with Traherne. Level 60, you're sick of it? You want to move on? The game's clearly trying to make you feel sad and hammering on about the supposedly emotional moment, but you unfortunately aren't feeling the emotion of it. So you suddenly realise that there's not going to be any payoff emotionally to the rest of the story. You stop playing level 60. Seems fair. see. Once upon a time, I used to just bug my way out of this. I don't remember how it was. I think it was here. But I bugged my way out. Maybe they've changed the terrain a little or something. But there's a vista on the other side of that, and what you want to do is climb up. Did they add that mushroom there so that you can't? Because I totally did this several times. What you need to do is jump onto that, and you slide down, but... There you go. Yeah, I think they added a mushroom, because I think you used to just be able to walk up that, didn't you? Did they add that mushroom there? How are we supposed to get that vista now then? What's the situation? Do we have to do the Skyline stuff? So what are people saying? 80? Generally I stopped right before Zaitan because I didn't want to do a Ra. Oh, because it was a dungeon? Level 20, but I had no clue how to play the game. I was a wee bit young, but now I have 6 80s and 2 level 40s. But what, you never went back to the story? I stopped when Forgal, my Norn bud in the Vigil, died. I finished it pretty soon on my main, but level 20 on one ult and 70 on another. Been playing on and off from an early account and mostly just for the raids. At this point, I think I got to about level 50-ish. I've done it on my mains, but not a lot of my ults. I feel like stopping after the Battle of Claw Island every time. Finished it, wanted the experience for beating missions, didn't care about the story. Finally, I found Zaitan when a friend... Fought Zaitan when a friend was doing it. Level 10, I got to 82 quickly. It feels weird playing the story through immediately after each other. Oh, that's interesting. So you got to 80 before you did any story, and then you just played all the steps in succession, and it felt too weird? I personally enjoyed the story until Claw Island. Once Traherne came into the picture, things just went downhill fast. I think I'd have preferred if the personal story had stayed focused on the initial story, but didn't. But my solution to this, by the way, the Claw Island thing, is what Claw Island represents is a transition from race politics and order politics into, you know, the core story of battling Zaitan as the Pact together. That's the turning point there. To me, Guild Wars 2 has already been two different, has always and always should have been just two different stories. The core story of Guild Wars 2 should not be, as we see here on the story journal, lumped into this thing called My Story. I think that's bollocks. I think what you should actually have is My Story, which is the initial race base arc. So if you're a Char, My Story is to do with the attack on the Citadel by the Flame Legion and stuff. And then I believe that after, it should have an end, and that is the climax. Then it is done. You are done with that story. And now, if you want, it's very clear to players that you can start an entirely new and different story, known as, you know, the Zaitan's War, right? Which is separate. And they make it clear why you, as a Char, are abandoning your warband, or why you, as a human, are no longer interested in the human politics, why you feel need to alienate yourself from everything you've experienced already. But there is a clear, hard cut-off point. And then what people would experience when Claw Island and the orders and stuff start is a real sense of, oh, I'm starting something new, instead of just, oh, they're pulling the rug out from under me, right? I think that's what's really important. And I think that transition where it goes from orders into pact should never have happened. I think it should just be your order's perspective of the war against Zaitan and how your order funded the pact and how your order interacted with the pact and developed, devoted people to the pact, and your experience of that always with the perspective of that order. So there should be 5 stories for the first thing, depending on the race, and there should be 3 stories for the second thing, depending on the order you choose. And each is its own distinct, completely separate storyline. Just as Ink said in chat there, he said the entire story feels unfinished as a Char. You work to build a warband and then you leave them. Yeah, and they never explain properly why you do. That's what I mean. That's why the game starts to feel like it's meanders too much. Let's try and do the Scar Bivouac. I don't know whether that means we're going to be able to get that Vista, but I hope it does. I think I've never legitimately got that Vista. I've always bugged it out. So people are saying I thought it was weird that we were the commander. I always thought we should be the war marshal, stuff like that. Listen, I think if we want to be the war marshal, we can be the goddamn war marshal. It's fine. I know we're playing an MMO where there are, you know, thousands of us, and there's no way we can truly impact the world when it comes down to it, because hey, there's loads of us. But if the story is as separated as they seem to want it to be, where everyone is kind of, you know, pushed off into their own little area anyway, sure, make them the hero, make them the war marshal. People can have that suspension of disbelief. That's not a crazy step to ask people to take in the game. It's not. At the same time, however, I don't feel the need for us to be the war marshal or the need for us to be the commander. I don't feel like making that happen somehow makes it a good story. I think that's a preposterous notion. And you certainly don't have to rely on that. That goddamn shield, man. Oh dear. What are we supposed to do here to kill that Chuck? I just needed to wait. What was it that killed me? It doesn't even really say. Huh. Well, thank you for the res, bro. I'll just wait for that to run out then, because it seems to have some kind of retail effect on it. Or just straight up retail. Do you think the player would become Marshal in Season 3? No, I don't think so. Oh, well, I don't know. Actually, there's a possibility. I don't think we need to, but there's a possibility. You have to go to where you are, WP, then fly across from another ledge, then climb up again. You don't need to finish the scar. Alright. Well, I'll let those guys do that, and I'll keep an eye on it. We'll try and climb again. WP, at the end of the Heartthorn story, are we the War Marshal now, or are we going to be looked over on that position again? I mean, we only saved the pack and killed an Elder Dragon again. That doesn't necessarily mean we're a great leader of people. Because listen, I kind of like my stories to be a little bit more realistic, and to, you know, and to suggest that we'd be the War Marshal, okay? When you really think about it, the duties, the roles, the responsibilities of the War Marshal, okay, are probably quite boring. Probably based on a lot of paperwork, a lot of planning, a lot of general stuff that we, the player hero, don't have the time to do, because it would actually be boring to play as the player. You know, we want to be out on the field and on small sorties, not some massively high risk target that, you know, you couldn't even comprehend putting out into a position like that, because obviously then you're just going to get killed. You know, you can't run that risk. So no, I think really let someone else be the War Marshal. It doesn't really make sense that the player character would be such a high value and intelligence target like that, and then also continue doing the same kind of adventures we already do. I like the way we're viewed in the raids, really. We're just a powerful mercenary of this world. I think that's pretty much perfect. Doesn't matter with where else we're affiliated. We don't need to have some arbitrary title or role. The only reason that we have so many titles in the personal story, by the way, is just so that they have a way of referring to you without touching on your character name. Because obviously everyone has a different character name and they can't voice act for it. That's why they're so intent on calling you Slayer, and then, you know, Hero of Hero of Shamor, or the Hero of Kvatch, as it always reminds me. You know, that's why they do those things. It's not because you actually need to have some prominent position among a fictional organization in order to be a valuable, you know, story. Yeah, Season 3, The Desk, with Paper's boss fight. Oh no, I got a paper cut! Unlocked stapler. Oh shit, look, we made it. Oh, guys, nice, thank you. I like how we are voice acted in the raids and what our role was. Kind of reminded me of what was in SWTOR. Yeah, definitely. You know, and there's a temptation to say that we should remake the personal story so that it uses that kind of raid voice technology as well, where you can bounce quips among your allies and stuff. But obviously that seems like a bit of a mismatch and a bad idea, because the raids, the personal story is designed to be soloable, so, you know, that would probably go to waste. But that does lead me on to something else I think that would be a very strong fixture of the personal story. How do you make it feel like the player has choice and RPG decisions to make while also having generally a single coherent narrative that doesn't branch too much and dilute itself over too many paths, right? How do you do that? Well, you give people lots of small, more minor decisions they can make throughout the story. And I think one of the best ways you can accomplish that, and you see a lot of RPGs, even outside of MMOs doing, is you allow people to like choose the companion they have with them at the time. And then you absolutely can dive more into that territory that the raids dive into, where you have this technology bouncing between characters. Because what you'd essentially do is you'd create this story where players choose the companions they have on their adventures, and you know, the NPC allies that they choose to run in. And depending on who you pick, they'll have different quips about different areas. You know, anyone who played like Fallout 4, for example, will be more than familiar with the way that they do this, right? Depending on who you've got, they'll have different comments and different scenarios, and your player character will talk to them in different ways. That kind of stuff's all really good. And that's a way of making it feel like you have a meaningful choice in affecting how the story is playing out without really having a choice in the massive, massive core directions that it goes in. I think that would be really cool for Guild Wars 2. So I want us to go to Crescent Descent, which is where? It's up there. It's there. Oh, that's the sinkhole. Oh, okay. So we are done with the Sky area. Nice. Juria Ree says, I'd honestly love to see a path in a story where you become a little bit of a bad guy, perhaps some sort of misunderstanding, like a mesmer taking your appearance and causing shit. Winds of Change was the closest I think ArenaNet ever did to doing something like that, where they kind of did this story where you... What was it that you were made out to be? You were made out to be a bit of like a xenophobe or something. Because the whole idea of the Winds of Change story was how Cantha became very secular and independent and very paranoid of alien cultures and other ways of life outside of their way of life. And how the Ministry of Purity gained prominence over the people, and it kind of put you, the player character, into that cool position of experiencing a bit of it. It was nice. This is cool. I do like it, man. Very, very, very cool. Excellent. Alright, so now we got that. Now we want this, which is at the end of the Scar lane, so let's go down there. But again, you know, what you just said there in chat about us becoming a bad guy, that's cool. And you can flirt with that in very small amounts, I think, and it can be quite harmless and easy to implement. But I don't think that you have... I don't think that's what Guild Wars should be about. I think that's pretty much against a lot of the core concepts that the gameplay exhibits, as much as anything else. So, I mean, if you're going to do that, if you want a game where it's all about, oh, are you the bad guy or not? That's a great idea. That's a cool concept. But I think to really do that justice, that's like a game itself, right? That's like, you know, you go back to the drawing board and you want to make a game that is all about playing with this idea in an MMO setting or whatever. I don't think that Guild Wars is the place to play around with that too much, because it would require so much, right? Like, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think it's the kind of thing that I would want ArenaNet to prioritize on, because I think that if you push for that, it can end up dragging everything else down with it in the name of it, right? How about we just tell a good story? And it can be about heroes and villains, and we're the hero, and that's fine. And you might find that a bit old hat now, you might find that a bit cliche now, or whatever. But within that space, you can still do some very impressive stuff and make your audience really happy. So I would say go for that, because it's... You could go down a really deep rabbit hole trying to do like all these kind of fun ideas where it's, oh, are we the bad guy? You know, and that answer I just gave you there is, if someone ever asks me, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could play as the Flame Legion? Or wouldn't it be cool if we could play as the Inquest? Stuff like that. That's my answer. Yes, it would be cool, but it's probably not worth it, because to really pull it off, it means a lot. It means a lot of work and a lot of stuff. So someone said, what if we do terrible things but for a good cause, just like the end justifies the process? Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, you can flirt with it in small amounts, right? You could totally have a chunk of the Order of Whispers arc, all right? In my little perfect world, you'd have a big long Order of Whispers campaign that you'd play through, right? And yeah, you can have like 2/3, like a third of that at one point. The Order of Whispers is all about swapping allegiances and spying and subterfuge and not knowing who you can trust, right? Trust can be a huge theme of that story. And yeah, in that you can play with, oh shit, we've been doing something really bad actually and we didn't mean to. That can be a fun little thing you play with in the Order of Whispers story. But whether that becomes, a huge theme and element of the MMO in general and the entire personal story is very different, right? Like, it would just be something, again, to flirt with. Right, someone said Trahernian Heart of Thorns. We did something questionable there, maybe. Where we do something that looks quite outwardly bad. We kill a friend. And a big player in the game of fighting the Elder Dragons. Someone says, I remember that I felt bad we killed that Asura Pact medic's husband. Yeah? And ArenaNet did some really good stuff with that story as well in Heart of Thorns, where she still doesn't forgive you. It's fucking awesome, actually. If you did that story and you meet her in the jungle, she's like, yeah, I don't like you still. Alright, what are we looking for here? We want a skill challenge, and it says the skill challenge is above us. So it seems most likely to me that that is up at Tiku Nuhok somewhere. Maybe that's the mushroom one. Let's try that, shall we? WP, do you think we will ever repair Khaled Bulg? I'm indifferent, really. We could, sure, or we might not. If we don't, it might give us a reason to look at this this blood spear that was featured in Age of Destiny. Or what about the weapon made of blood that you recover from for the Dermond Priory, one of the early Dermond Priory quests after you first meet Siren? There are other weapons out there that could feature heavily in the destruction of future Elder Dragons. But so far, Khaled Bulg's had a bit of a limp end, hasn't it? It didn't really do much. Again, I feel like Khaled Bulg deserves a proper end in killing Zaitan, but they never did that. Hey, another reason to redo the personal story! Let's actually give Khaled Bulg the end it deserves. Well, not the end, give it its moment. What do you think the orders were supposed to have different methods to subdue dragons turned into let's just kill them? They seem to not be able to match the perception to what actually happens in game very well. Yeah, you can see it really clearly what ArenaNet do in the game when, that's why Claw Island is such a heinous moment of the story where it was suddenly a big shift. Claw Island represents the moment that ArenaNet clearly went back on their original ideas and decided that they couldn't support three fully different stories depending on orders. And so they just quite artificially construct this pact for everyone to come together, so they only have to do the one story, and they drop all sense of each order's gonna have its own ideas. And I really think that that's what happened. And then they were like, well, shit, what about ranking up through the orders? Okay, well, instead of pacing that out from levels 30 through to 80, let's just have it all happen within 10 missions. And then that feels really hilariously short and stupid and. Let's see. Hero points. I don't understand what I'm doing here. What was I looking for? I was in Rotten Novus Lane. This is what I was looking for here. That's what it was. Alright, so we're going to walk towards that. Wherever that is. We're going to do our best. Oh, people have been linking a reforged Khaled Bulg in map chat. Oh, right. I didn't actually realise that. There we go. Oh, no, that's a mastery point. Well, let's try exit in this area and see if we can swing our way up. I'm sure that's the mushroom thing, though. Yeah. Sorry for being off topic, but what's your favourite Heart of Thorns adventure? Probably the Leyline Run or the Salvage Pit is hilarious when there's tons of people there. Like, really cool. Oh, I didn't realise there was a tiger den here. That's cool. If they did 3 story, would even be more of a mess with future content. Wait, what do you mean? If they did 3 stories, it would be even more of a mess with future content. No, 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 no. You don't seem to understand. Yes, you would do 3 different stories. However, you would not have each one can only exist. It's 3 different perspectives of the same story. Does that make sense? Here we go. We are here. But why can't I get through? Okay, cool. Right? So it's not like, oh, this is they're not like what ifs. It's not what if the Order of Whispers killed Zaitan by sending him to sleep. What if the Vigil killed Zaitan by brute forcing him? What if the Dermond Priory killed Zaitan through wit? They're not what if stories. Zaitan is slain, and Zaitan is slain in the same way every time. However, if you choose to play Order of Whispers, you get to see what the Order of Whispers' contribution to that death was. If you play the Dermond Priory, you get to see what their contribution was. If you play the Vigil, you get to see what theirs was. You know, and if that means that when you see the Order of Whispers' perspective, it's that they're continuously trying to send him back to sleep, and then eventually they realise the plan is just not going to work at the end, and it's like a big disaster, and that's the point of the story, then that's the point of the story. If the point of the Vigil story is that they're always trying to brute force it, and they've got too many people signing up to be a part of their faction too quickly, they don't have any control over it, and you know there's a real threat that the Vigil is too young, it doesn't have the good management. They're just sort of falling into hooliganism and you know, people are just using it as an excuse to fight, and they really don't know what they're doing, but they've got this huge, really powerful force. It's just undirected, and it's about the Vigil coming to terms with that and eventually actually being the ones to succeed killing Zaitan against all odds. Then that was their perspective. Do you get what I mean? But it opens so many doors. It opens up all these doors of, you know, why the orders maybe don't like each other. Why they weren't cooperating in the first place. Something that the current personal story is woefully inadequate at explaining. Alright, so we got that one then. Now we're looking for a Vista. See, it's so hard to tell where that Vista might be. Is that Ogre now? No, that's not Ogre. That's Tiku Nuhawk still, right? Let's try and climb back up and see. Oh, you're asking me about the stream last night? Yeah, there's basically last night we started streaming and then it all bugged out on me and I cancelled it. So that's the 2-minute VOD you can see. Then we did another stream that did last a bit longer, but I started talking about Brexit and stuff. I started talking about my mum and why I sort of voted against her and how I consider what a lot of her points were basically I consider were quite racist. But I kind of don't want to give the impression to people that I think everyone who voted to leave the EU is a racist, because that's absolutely not true. So I pulled the VOD in the end because I was a little bit insecure about it. It wasn't anything major, but yeah. No, you didn't really miss much. It wasn't a very long stream. And that was basically it. WP, I just wanted to say how annoyed I am at your wonderful run of games on Visualwood. My wallet is angry. Oh, you don't have to buy them. They're great games we're doing at the moment. Matt and I are really, really, really hoping that that starts going somewhere, because still at the moment we don't have an audience really, and it's a real shame. We've got a very small audience, and we absolutely love everyone who's been watching Visualwood, but we wish it was actually grown, and it's just not at the moment. But we've got 2 fucking awesome games we're playing at the moment, and we're doing much longer videos now, much longer. So hopefully you guys get a lot more joy out of it. I refined and changed my editing process entirely for Visual Wood, like completely, which allows us to crank out a lot more content. A lot more. Oh, and I can reveal it now as well. So yeah, on yesterday's stream, I revealed that Wax, I did a stream last week where I talked about a guy who died, who used to just last week, who used to hang out on the streams, and he was a big contributor, and he was a really, really cool guy and a good friend. He asked me about it must have been like within, this is going to sound really dramatic, but it's really true, I promise. Basically, he was at one of our streams, I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning, and he'd sent me a message 17 hours ago, and his sister had sent me a message half an hour ago saying that unfortunately he'd passed away. Now, this message from 17 hours ago, he'd been asking me to play a game called Life is Strange. He said he'd just played it. It may have taken his top spot as his favorite game of all time in front of Final Fantasy X. He loved Life is Strange. He had a spare code that he wanted to give to me and Matt to play it on Visual Wood because he thought we'd really like it. And I responded to him and said, oh, dude, I don't know whether we've got time for that. I'm sorry. And he said to me, oh, don't worry about it. And we talked about some other stuff. Then 17 hours later, he was dead. I shit you not. And so Matt and I are playing Life is Strange. And it is a very, very, very cool game. Kind of sort of in honor of him, I suppose, to an extent. It was completely, really crazy. But to counterbalance Life is Strange as well, which is kind of, you know, a silly high school-y kind of game, we're also playing Soma, which is incredibly fucking awesome, and you guys should really, really, really watch. It's not just about the horror. Soma has got an incredibly awesome, exciting, and interesting and thought-provoking plot. And it's got so many badass twists and turns. And Matt's already played it before. He did a stream of it before. And so he's like watching me react to all this stuff, and I'm like pooing myself like, oh my god. And he's just sort of smirking, all knowing. It's great. It's really good. Soma is really good. Yeah, and if you guys want to watch it, you don't even necessarily have to sub to Visual Wood or anything, by the way. All you have to do is just go to Wood and Potatoes, my channel on YouTube, and it shows every stream that goes up, every regular video that goes up, every Visual Wood that goes up, every Concrete Ducks, if I ever start putting those up. It shows everything. It's good. Yeah, screw you, Smoke Scale. I have a super long-lasting block. How do you like that? I'm trying to go for this POI up here now. It's called the Subterranean Lake, so I'm guessing it's low down. Oh, I know exactly where the Subterranean Lake is. That's where you fight the Shadow Skelk, no? I think good action equals good result is very boring. I like the protagonist that knows the cost of war and willing to shoulder the dirty work even if the master does not understand. That's the responsibility and consequence of being a leader. Are you talking about for Guild Wars 2's story? You know, where you'd like to see it go? There is one thing that I quite often struggle with when it comes to Guild Wars 2's story, and this is it. And that's that, you know, there are some stories that no matter how exciting they are, they're just too dark, or they're just too complicated, or they're just too nuanced for this game to go into, right? There is an age rating on the game. There is an expectation for what your average MMO player's age and, you know, desires are going to be in terms of the plot that they're going to experience. And so you are limited in a lot of ways. You can't just be like, oh, I want Guild Wars 2 to become Game of Thrones, right? You can't you're going to moderate that quite a lot. Because it would just feel out of place, and it would feel weird, and it would feel stupid, and it wouldn't be what people in large want anyway. And you might not be able to pull it off well enough. This place looks beautiful. Honestly, look at this. I love the contrast adjustments I have on the current reshape. Look at that, like really. With the bats floating around up there. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Alright. Now we want a skill challenge, which is down there. Okay, so where could that be? Ogre Camp seems like a smart place to go to. What do we need? We need 2 POIs and 1 hero challenge, and then we're done. I will finish this on this stream, guys. We will finish this. The real question with Soma is, did you guys ever find the red goop? The most recent episode we recorded, I got encased in red goop. I'll say that. Isn't Guild Wars already the Game of Thrones of MMOs? Story-wise, has a lot of influences. Yeah, it's true. It does seem that there's a lot of, you know, back in the day, when perhaps A Song of Ice and Fire wasn't so mainstream and the devs felt more comfortable doing it, they did seem to draw a lot of inspiration for place names and things for their universe from George R.R. Martin's body of work. But I don't think that necessarily means the core themes and ideas behind the story. Just because, you know, we have a great northern wall and they have a great wall, and, you know, there's the, you know, various terms come up quite a lot. Lissa is a term that comes up in both. There's a lot. There's a lot of things. I think the Airy is a prominent place in both. We already have that. How do we get up there, guys? What do we do? Is this where we have to go across all of these and stay kind of high up in here? Maybe? I'll try it. But no, does that mean that we're now going to have, you know, does that mean that Guild Wars 2 in the cow expansion needs to have an equivalent of the Red Wedding? No, right? If that's what we're suggesting. That's a really interesting effect. I'm surprised they don't use that in more places. Alright, this clearly is not where I need to be. Did we just do a full, like, 180 or something? Or is it? Is it up there, maybe? No, I've already got that one. Yeah, we already have this. This one's not where. I liked being a Savarian Heart of Thorns. Felt a little refreshing to not necessarily be looked at in a positive way the whole time. Yeah, I think they did that very well, yeah. I think that's about as close as you'll see they get to, like, really kind of... Oh, there's a point of interest directly underneath us as well. I'm going to go for this one. Okay. Is that going to be in the water under us then? Surprised we don't have it yet. Is it down here? Alright, there we go. This refuge. That still says that that's above us. It's so hard to see what we're going on. And then there's one over here as well. Well, let's try and get that. That would be our last POI. And then this is it, guys. This is what we need for the rest of the map. These two things here. That's it, and then it's done. Oh, just FYI, I wasn't being spoilery with Red Goop, just commenting on the 20+ minute search in your apartment for the tracer fluid. Yeah, I thought that was quite funny. When I told Matt that I did the entire first episode as the apartment for a laugh, I think he got a bit put off. I think if Matt had been the one editing Soma, you would not have seen that episode come out like that. You would have seen the apartment search been much more heavily cut down, and you would have seen the first episode contain a lot more in it than just that. But I thought it was funny, and, you know, we basically have that. I feel like we sort of have the system where we sort of get to have that sort of creative liberty depending on who's producing what. Like, and the equivalent is, like, Matt's doing Life is Strange, and Life is Strange has a very core concept in it, and that's sort of time travel, okay? And it's very important that you get to the time travel so that people even know what the game's about. Matt and I didn't get to the time travel, which is right at the start of the game, for about 40 minutes of playtime. So, I mean, he was basically in the same boat with Life is Strange. And his decision was to do, like, a really big, chunky, long episode. I think Life is Strange episode 1's about 40 minutes. There we go. So we got that. Now all we need is this hero point here. It says it's high up. Oh, is that the one where we just fly in the updrafts and get to it? Is there a skill? Is there a hero challenge there, or is that a mastery point? You always wanted to be a dwarf more than a Tengu. Yeah, that'd be cool to be a dwarf. You think next expansion will be Cantha? See, we don't have to go to Cantha, though. I mean, I said this the other day. What was so cool about Cantha is not necessarily true about Cantha anymore. And that's the incredibly exotic and abstract high fantasy concept behind some of its environs. You know, the Jade Sea is just a sea now. The Echovald Forest is probably just a forest. The people that live there might not even be that interesting. The most exciting thing that they could do with Cantha is make Kaineng City all fucking crazy futuristic and stuff. And give it a really, really weird and nuanced political backdrop in terms of their xenophobia and stuff. But, you know, whether they'll do that, I have serious doubts. Yeah, is that it there, or is that just a mastery point? Honestly, I can't tell. Is that it? Really? Has that always been that there? I think this is it. Yeah, it is. Holy shit. The Gilded River. God, this expansion's beautiful. Look at that. Listen to that water as well. Well, guys, that has been me, Wooden Potatoes, rambling away in the middle of the night. I hope you've enjoyed. Oh, wow, we get a Berserker amulet. Actually, that might sell for a reasonable amount. Nope, never mind. I hope you enjoyed. I feel like, as ever, I end up just rambling about a bunch of shit. Like some pseudo-intellectual. Doesn't really know what he's talking about. But it's fun. WP, when are you planning on starting Oblivion? I'm a big fan of the Elder Scrolls and I can't wait to see you play it. Well, we're going to do Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, and then Oblivion. I am in my personal time playing Oblivion at the moment. I just started a playthrough 2 days ago. But you won't see that on the channel for a while. Arena will be the first Elder Scrolls Day game. Suddenly they turned Cantha into 1984. Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. But yeah, if you guys want more stuff, again, there is about an hour of really... the 2 games we're playing are really awesome. I really do recommend you check out Visual Wood. Here's a link for you if you want to have a look now that the stream's over. But thanks, guys. It's been really cool. I honestly didn't expect anyone really to watch today. I mean, shit, we just streamed from 4 a.m. till 6 a.m. You guys are troopers. I know that that's just my time zone, but still. Anyway, everyone, I will hopefully get my sleep schedule back on track soon enough. Thanks very much for listening. Hope you all had a good time. And I will see you tomorrow for whatever comes. Have a good one, guys. And I'll see you next time.